Hello. How are you? Oh. Hello. Oh, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good to see Jarvis, Kai, Pharaoh, everyone else. Oh, what a time to be alive. I need to change that Nightbot target, don't I, to 80,000 subscribers. God, you get to see my middle part in there, didn't you? I look majestic. Oh, stop it. Stop it. I really don't. I mean, I did get more sleep last night, thankfully. I did get 5 hours. So. Oh, on my second coffee. I did get more good sleep. Yeah, I did, thankfully. Mother's Day today in the UK. So those of you that have forgotten, if you're in the UK, I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up. You got time to nip out to the shops. Well, the shops aren't open yet, but you got time to nip out to the shops this morning after the F1 and grab a card and a bunch of flowers. Good afternoon, Alan. Good to see you. But welcome everyone. Right, I need to change that Nightbot, don't I? Right, dashboard. There we go. Confirmation last night. Confirmation that it was going to be on its way, but confirmation that we have the Saudi Arabian and the Bahrain Grand Prix, or the other way around, have been cancelled. So, yeah. Happy Mother's Day to Mrs. Stuffeyy. Yes. Yeah, she's... I'm very fortunate that she's allowing me to do this on her day. We are going out for a nice meal later on, though. Top of the morning, Sam. Good to see you. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. If you are new here, what do? Well, we go live an hour before the race gets underway because there's lots to discuss. Obviously, an opportunity for us to chat about what happened in qualifying or just over the weekend and what to expect in the race. We have a look at the recon laps because, well, we saw what happened last time on the reconnaissance laps with Oscar Piastri. Hopefully, we don't see that again from any driver. We'd like to see all 22 cars start on the grid this time around. I don't believe anyone's starting from the pit lane, or at least I haven't heard that information yet. And then, of course, we'll have a look at the strategy options, the tyre allocations, what could be expected from those strategies, who has what tyres available, and, of course, the weather and pit stop lost time. So all of that information that is important to your viewing experience in the race today. But I will do my best to keep you informed of throughout. So, yes. How was quali yesterday? Better. I don't know if I think everyone can agree with that. It was better because primarily because George Russell's car broke down. Apparently they had to turn it on and off again and put a new steering wheel on, and he ended up driving. I think they said he ended up driving the final qualifying lap with no dashboard, like no information at all. He was just driving around through his instincts. So back to like the junior formulas. So yeah, he definitely did a good job, really, to be 2 tenths off of his teammate without all that information, considering how kind of advanced all this new F1 gizmos are in it. So, but good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Enjoying my coffee. Yep. Luke, what do I think about the cancellations of the Bahrain and Saudi Grand Prix? I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? That the safety of people is more paramount than Formula One racing at the end of the day. So, yeah, it was bound to happen with it being so close to, with it being like so close in time. What was it? Bahrain is only like 4 weeks away. So, yeah, it's a shame that unfortunately that region of the world is not in a good place right now, obviously, with everything that's going on. So, yeah, just hope that everyone and anyone who's tuning in from there as well is staying safe, and that's what's paramount. So, Thank you, Anuj. Much appreciated. No need to Spain. You only need to send that message once. I'll get you. Thank you. They can race at Brands Hatch, yeah. So I really did think that they would look at. I really did think that they would look at pushing it later on in the year, at minimum, or look to. Oh, hang on. There's an electronics problem with Lando Norris's car. Oh dear. Oh dear. There's a mechanic literally head first into the legs up in the air, and he's head first into the cockpit of Lando Norris's McLaren. That's not ideal. That's not ideal, is it? That fucking cat. Scoot. 2 seconds, guys. 2 seconds. Cat's woken little one up. Oh, I'm back. Little one was awake. So, it's probably me, to be fair. So, but yeah, hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is doing well this morning. But, yeah, sorry, something about the Lando Norris's car. More gremlins in the McLaren. Oh, dear. It's logistically impossible to switch other races into slot of Saudi and Bahrain due to some other places. Yeah, so continuing my point about the Saudi and Bahrain Grand Prix, yeah, that's what they said. They said it's too short notice to logistically host F1 and for all the teams to move their gear out there and so forth. So, yeah, it's a shame. It's 2 races less, but we still have 22 race weekends ahead of us. I mean, it's a lot of racing still. I mean, 22 races, 22 race weekends, still with 5 more sprint weekends in there as well. That is still a lot of F1. So let's just hope that obviously it could even be less, because if obviously the conflict out there hasn't been resolved by the end of the year, then we could lose Qatar and Abu Dhabi as well. So yeah. It's a shame. So we could end up with 20 races this year instead of 22 if that continues to obviously later on in the year. Can't they schedule these races to the end of the year? I don't know. I thought maybe they would find a gap, but logistically, I thought personally there would still be time for them to maybe jig around the end of the season and maybe do a Middle Eastern swing at the end of the season to round off. But no, look, the calendar's already pretty set. It's already chock-a-block anyway. And like you've got Vegas is a street circuit that is like there's already a lot of disruption to the area anyway. That's locked in every year. I mean, it's easier to, and probably contractually easier to just postpone them. So to just cancel them. They'll have clauses and so forth for that anyway. How does the money go about? If FIA loses, the country loses. Everyone loses, to be honest with you, don't they? No one's going to get any money. I imagine that the fee for this year will probably be waived because of it. There may be, I don't know. Maybe the FIA might have covered themselves with a clause in the contract, because I mean this is something that in that region of the world is always possible, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't know. Unless I get sights on a contract, I don't know. But I'd be very surprised if the FIA, not the FIA, but at least like Formula One management hadn't covered themselves with some sort of clause in the contract for this kind of potentiality is not even a word. Insurance policy, I'm guessing. Yeah, there'd be some sort of insurance in there. Everyone involved or whatever. They're saying it's 100 million loss. Yeah, well, Bahrain pays, what, 45 million the last time I looked, and Saudi's like 55. So yeah, that's what they pay Formula One management to host the race. But welcome everyone. Hope you're good. Not long until we see drivers out on track, of course. We are waiting for drivers to do their reconnaissance laps. Already some gremlins in the McLaren of Lando Norris's car. If you're just joining in, just tuning in, it seems to be that there's an electronic issue which is stopping him. How many coffees today? I need at least 3. It's not as bad this morning. Not as bad. I got up at 5:30 a.m. So I was able to get at least like 5 hours of sleep. I got like 5 hours of sleep in. 6 hours of sleep, so not too bad. Much better than it has been getting up at 2:30 to do practice. So, what happened to Jules yesterday? Potentially, no, I said potentiality. I was mixing eventuality and potentiality into two. So, but going back to what happened to Jules yesterday in qualifying, yeah, he had issues. So he said in Q2 he did indeed have damage to his front wing. So that was correct, which is why he came on the radio and said there was concerns. So that's fair. So changed the front wing, but then they had literally a software issue. They had to come back into the pits, literally turn it on and off again, put a brand new steering wheel on the car. And what he did is that apparently he went out there and he had no dashboard, he had no information at all. So he had to just rely on obviously the automatic machine learning of the deployment of the battery, use the boost, I assume, whether he can use the boost or whatever he's able to use in qualifying, and he did it with like no information. So to be only 2 and a bit tenths off of his teammate under those circumstances, just from like feel alone, considering how these cars operate, and you need that level of information, is pretty good. And he had to, I think he said as well, he had to rush around a bit and didn't have his tyres properly prepped either. So, I mean, look, it's pretty decent, but it provided us a closer gap at the front, and it made qualifying a little bit more interesting. But the race is definitely, I think, still the best we can hope for as fans is to see the see the Ferraris on the second row right now. The Mercedes do just have a better power unit, a better power distribution, energy recovery. They're just able to recover that energy so much more efficiently than everyone else. So, don't want to see software issues plague the big teams and big drivers reduce the quality. I totally agree. Charles Leclerc said something interesting yesterday. Before we switch scene to our live data, Charles Leclerc said something yesterday about how, because of the machine learning, he can't. He said he would normally, what he would do for Q1 and Q2 is obviously it's about getting through to Q3, and Q3 is then when you turn up the wick, right? You turn a dial up and you push more. And he said, and that's where like I feel like I was always able to make a difference. Now, he says, if I do that, I'm at a detriment to myself because the battery deploys in areas that it's not used to. So consistency across qualifying is rewarded more than balls to the wall in Q3, which is a shame, and that's not what we want to see from F1, do we? So I don't know. I don't think that's going to change over the course of this season. I think we're stuck with that, unfortunately, just because of how these power units in the battery operates. I don't think there's. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any tweaks that can rectify that. But in the race, they can rectify it with the power distribution and what can be recovered from the battery and so forth. But yeah, that's a shame to hear. That is a shame to hear. Where is all the Antonelli hate coming from by the fans? He's a 19-year-old kid. These are cool fans. They're picking on a literal child. I don't know where the hate has come from. I don't know. What hate has he been getting? All I saw from Kimi Antonelli online was obviously Isaac Hadjar didn't really want to take his apology when he came over to kind of come over and apologise for his contact in the sprint race. And Isaac Hadjar was just like get away from me, basically. And I get that because that's heat at the moment. Isaac Hadjar is not happy that his race has been ruined by Kimi Antonelli. He said it after the race as well. He was like, look, there's no need for him to do it when he's in a rocket ship. And you don't have to accept someone's apology. So, but no, I think Kimi Antonelli was fully deserving of his pole position yesterday. He should be credited for that. I mean, he's the youngest pole sitter in F1 history, and regardless, he deserves to be He needs to be recognised for that, regardless of the car he's in. As we know throughout history, fast cars are not easy to drive. So, my pleasure, Drew. Good to see you again, buddy. Ferrari in second row is deadly, and Antonelli doesn't have the experience to defend against them. Well, this is a learning curve, of course, for Kimi. He still is only 19. But what I'm concerned about with Kimi is that he's had very poor race starts. Every single, I know we only had 2, but the 2 race starts we have had, he's dropped back to 8th place after both race starts, and we know how quick the Ferraris are off the line. So it could be a repeat of the start of the sprint race tomorrow. Yesterday, sorry. Right. I don't know. Hadjar's a bit emotional sometimes. He is. However, with Hadjar in that moment, you have to realise if you're in that moment, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who the other individual is. Like, you're not going to be happy that, due to no fault of your own, someone in the fastest car on the grid has decided to plough into the side of you. And I can tell you now, and I only have sim racing to compare this to, there is nothing more frustrating as well than someone ploughing into the side of you when you're just minding your own business. And 2, that person who's ploughed into the side of you and caused you to crash or caused you damage has no damage themselves. And they're able to just drive off, and Kimi was able to just drive off, and without that 10-second time penalty, would have finished P2. So there's nothing more frustrating than that as well. To see, like, there's no, like, how can someone just do that, ruin my race? Of course, Hadjar was going to struggle anyway, because Red Bull was struggled and he started on the softs, but he was running his own race, and then it was completely ruined after, obviously, having that contact. So I understand his frustrations, and it's just like when they say, why do they interview, why do you interview like footballers or whatever, or any sportsman straight after they finished a match? Because they're in a heightened state, and it's the same with Formula 1 drivers. So you're going to get, I mean, coming over, I get Antonelli's sentiments. At least he came over and did apologise, but at the same time, Hadjar doesn't have to take it, and you have to respect his feelings as well. So, and I'm sure they'll make up. Will we see another Ferrari 1-2 at the end of lap 1? I think we could. Yeah. They want sound bites in a moment, kind of discussed it. What's that for? Cop? What are you talking about? Oh, what with Hadjar and what he does? I mean, look, they all probably swear under their breath. They just don't all put it over the radio. By the way, when it comes to the AI radio transcriptions, I did hear from the people at Multiviewer that said, at the moment, the reason why the AI radio transcriptions are so difficult to get is because how they get them is through the TV onboards. And the TV onboards, the sound on the cars are so loud at the moment that you can't hear, or the AI can't hear the actual radio messages between the engineer and the drivers. So until that is fixed, F1's end, we won't get the radio transmissions for now. So as soon as that's kind of fixed, we'll trial that again. Right, so we are on right now. Hang on. Reconnaissance laps, green light, pit exit open. You know I'll wear the Mercedes shirt after July only. Should Hamilton fight Merck or conserve tyres to get P3? So this is going to be a very interesting race today, because it is going to be an interesting race because Hamilton would have learnt a lot yesterday, as well as Charles, as well as Jules. They all would have learnt yesterday how much, by fighting, that front left tyre takes, how that front left tyre takes a battering. So, not battling today in the first, you're going to have to choose to pick your battles wisely, basically. Overtaking on the outside into turn 1 and putting so much pressure on your front left isn't going to be the smartest move. So it's going to be, I think, a race of attrition today, here at China, more so than it is just like getting track position. It's going to be an interesting one. Because, yeah, tyres are important here today. And we will review, of course, those strategy options. But the medium is going to be used, as well as the hard. That is the primary kind of tyre choices for today. We may still see the soft, but, yeah, there is quite evidently tyre degradation here. Riley, would I consider this the most controversial F1 season with not just the regulations and paddock drama, but the BS in the Middle East? Can already hear the Russell slander if he wins the championship. I'm sure there's been more controversial F1 seasons than this right now. So, I mean, we had COVID at the end of the day. We went to the same racetrack twice. So, yeah, I don't know. In relation to obviously what's been happening off track, controversial or not entirely sure. But in relation to the regulations, I mean, we've had ups and downs with regulations in the past. So, 2021 exists. Well, that ended in controversy. It didn't begin in controversy, did it? The Ferrari starts are the only thing that is making me excited. I know. But we'll see as well. I mean, look, the Mercedes, how good are they on their tyres? That'll be the question for me. And I wonder what Ferrari have kind of discussed about strategy-wise. Because surely they have to start working together. Because there's the only way that they're going to beat the Mercedes right now, I believe, is if Leclerc and Hamilton start to work together. But I don't know. I really don't know. Funny how I refuse to wear the Ferrari merch now with the team being so close to the front. I'll wear it. I'll wear it in Suzuka. I got this top this week, and I really like it. I've worn the Red Bull one previously. I've worn this one all weekend, so it will go in the wash afterwards, and I'll bring out the Ferrari one. I'll bring it out for at least FP1 in Suzuka. What about the 2 cancelled races? Any alternatives? No, just the brand. The news is that they've just been cancelled. So the season is now a 22 race weekend season. So it's a shame. It's a shame, but we still have lots of F1. But we will now have a 4-week break between Suzuka, which is in 2 weeks' time. So we have a week's break. No F1 next weekend. Then we head to Suzuka the weekend after, and then after that we have a 4-week break. So there's no F1 in April. And then we head to Miami at the start of May. Morning, Andy. These are just reconnaissance laps, Hayden. They are not. This is not racing at the moment. This is them doing systems checks. So they go out. This is them making their way round to the grid. So when you see them shoot off there, that is them. I hope that is them just going through the pit lane. I don't think that's them making their way to their grid slots yet. We have had, if you are new here for this weekend, unfortunately, there has been telemetry issues at the start of the race. We didn't even get to see them line up on the grid yesterday. I've got a suspicion that's going to be the case again today. And we also do not get them making their way through the pit lane. As you can see, they just shoot off the screen. So, did I hear what Lando said on Ferrari? No, I didn't actually. Lando's still not come out. No, he hasn't. They're still working on a electrical issue on Lando Norris's car. So Lando Norris is still in the garage. Just a shorter season now, Solar, with the cancellations. But thank you everyone for tuning in, by the way, and thank you for choosing me for your F1 watch-along experience. If you can hit that like and subscribe button, it'd be much appreciated. Trying to hit 100,000 subs this year. We achieved 75,000 last weekend, and we're already at 76,225. So, wow, what we are growing. We are growing, heading in the right direction. So, thank you, everyone. Many more race weekends ahead of us. There won't be a Turkish Grand Prix either. No. I mean, that region is obviously massively under threat. Any race around there, of course. Qatar and Abu Dhabi are in December, so we will see if that will go ahead or not. But long time. Nothing like a stuffy party, yeah. No, thank you guys. You believe Ferrari will take P1 and P2 by the first lap, as long as those Ferrari don't fight hard. One of the Ferrari win this race. I don't know. I still think I still think Russell's going to come out on top, to be honest with you. I think Russell has the more experience. I think the two Mercedes, I think that we could see a decent battle between them. As I'm watching, what happened with Bortoletto here? Oh my God, Bortoletto nearly just spun the car. He went over the curb through turn 11 and he nearly lost the rear right in front of Carlos Sainz. That wasn't very good, Gabby. Lando Norris is in the car now, but he's still not making his way out of the pit lane. Oh dear, could this be a pit lane start for Lando Norris? 2 race weekends in a row where things have not gone well for the McLaren team, but at least he's not in the wall and he could still start this race. Lando said that they have the Merc engine and could be faster, but Ferrari is cracked, so he is trying to say that McLaren can improve and potentially challenge the title to a three-way battle. Yeah, so I have been informed that Ferrari are working on a B-spec engine. And I'm not fully up to date with kind of the rules, the engine rules, and what can and can't be done with the engine. But apparently Ferrari have a B-spec engine and are undoubtedly working on trying to do probably what the Mercedes are doing. So there is potential there for them to close that power difference. McLaren, I said this before, while of course they may be struggling right now, they are still picking up points and they have that Mercedes engine in the back of their car. We could very well come to Miami and they figure out how to operate and get the best out of that Mercedes engine. And all of a sudden in Miami, they are the quickest team. Because McLaren does seem to be good in the corners. I would say probably better than Antonelli and Russell, the Mercedes, in the corners. Ferrari are definitely the best in the corners. McLaren is very... I mean, the Mercedes isn't too shabby in the corners, but their advantage at the moment is definitely the power. But that doesn't mean that Mercedes also won't make improvements. They'll be analysing their weaknesses and they'll also be developing as well. It's not like they're going to stay static. They're also going to improve. So, yeah, but McLaren definitely... There's positives for them there because they will look at obviously what Mercedes are doing and go, well, we can replicate that because we've also got the same engine. April, yeah, be a sad month, no race weekend, unfortunately. Could they be considered a success for Aston if they managed to get both cars to the finish line? Yeah, it would be. I think so. Yeah, it would be, and Cadillac as well. So. Being a Red Bull fan is just sad this season. It happens. It happens. It doesn't mean that they can't turn things around though. But yeah, China is definitely not a good race for them for sure. It'll be just about securing points for Verstappen and Hadjar today. I mean, they could maybe get ahead of Gasly. Gasly did fall through the field yesterday, but I mean they were battling the Haas yesterday. To be fair, the Red Bull. That's how slow they are here this weekend. So. Why do the icons disappear when they go into the pits? That is because there are telemetry issues at the moment around the start pit lane. So yeah, we haven't seen drivers go straight into the pits. We've seen them. I mean, they're not even making their way right now through like where you see Colapinto, Piastri making their way down the start-finish grid. They're not. They're most definitely not because they should be lining up on the grid. So yeah, issues at the start. I will try and it may be again that we have to just keep an eye on the interval times, and we won't actually know we won't actually see them line up on the grid because that was the case with the sprint race yesterday, which was not too bad in the end. It did sort itself out. But it's been a poor weekend for telemetry. But it is also just China in itself with the connections and that. Right. Right. So, that is the reconnaissance laps. Nothing to make note of, but Lando Norris is in the pit lane. And he can still start on the grid, I believe. Just because he hasn't made his way round to the grid right now, he can still be wheeled out. I don't think there's a rule that states that he has to make his way around to the grid under his own steam. But there could very well be a pit lane start for Lando Norris today. Was going to start P6 and he'll have to do what Max Verstappen did in Australia. So, right. Shall we take a look at the strategy options for today? Let me just grab it up. Let me just see if my preferred graphic is available. It's not. Don't know why Pirelli do that. Sometimes they put their things out, sometimes they don't. Right. Here we go. So, your strategy options for today at the Chinese Grand Prix. Welcome, welcome everyone. It could potentially be a one-stop strategy, a splitting of strategies here, and I think that's what we're going to see today, personally, is a mixture of the one-stop and the two-stop. It is all going to be dependent on how these drivers look after their tyres. It is definitely going to be a race of attrition today. It's going to be very different to the sprint race. I think the sprint race yesterday was very eye-opening for a lot of the teams. And the one-stop is ambitious. It all depends on that hard compound tyre. It really does. We saw Liam Lawson on it yesterday, but it really does depend on how that hard compound tyre is going to hold up. We saw how the medium compound tyre held up in the sprint race yesterday, and it started to die off, didn't it? Especially with drivers fighting and pushing and going for overtakes down into turn one. So I wonder if we may not see as a racy of a race today in the first stint, at least, because drivers will be looking to hit their marks with their pit stops and look after their tyres. But the race is fully dependent today on how that hard compound tyre holds up. But it is a track, unlike Albert Park, where hopefully, if someone does try to do the one stop, it is a lot more of an effort. And someone who goes for the more aggressive two stop, we could see them chasing down and closing that gap to those at the front. So we'll see. We will see. It is a track, of course, that is possible to overtake, as we have seen here this weekend. So track position is always king, but it's not necessarily king here this weekend, especially if you're leaning on those tyres. So going to be interesting how the drivers and teams approach it. But I think we'll see maybe a mixture of the field. Half of them going for the one stop, half of them going for the two stop. I don't think the soft compound tyre stop there is a viable strategy. I just don't think that really is going to work. You may gain a few extra positions at the start of the race off the launch, but we saw how quick the medium fell off yesterday on high. And it's going to be on much higher fuel as well. So the car's going to be heavier. It's going to be taking more energy. That front left. The softest isn't going to work personally. So I think it's either one of strategy 1 or strategy 4 is the options for today. And well, what are the tyre offsets? What are those differences? Let's have a look. So this is the difference to the soft compound tyre. In the race, they're saying that the medium compound tyre will be 0.28 seconds per lap slower, and the hard tyre will be 0.75. So those are your offsets there and differences. Of course, we don't see the hard compound tyre in qualifying. It's never put on. So 1.4 hard over 4% medium deg plus safety car always plays into 1.4. Yeah. So I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And they're always the most interesting races when you have those on a two-stop going for the more aggressive. And you have, of course, someone on the one-stop trying to manage. Those are always interesting races. So let's see how they get on. But hopefully we don't get too many safety cars, if any at all, to ruin the strategy options. I kind of don't want to see any safety cars today, to be honest with you. I would like to see how a race actually plays out in full. So especially with a track where we are seeing degradation. So tyres available for today, and well, we have pretty much all the top teams except for Verstappen having the same tyres available. So we have there Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, and Piastri, with 2 brand new sets of hards available, 1 brand new set of mediums, and 1 used set of mediums, and 3 used sets of softs. So they are open, all the top teams. They are open to every strategy that we just mentioned there. Apart from Max, who has 4 softs and 1 used set of mediums. So he may be a bit of a detriment to start the race with those mediums that he has, a used set. Obviously, it's going to struggle for them here today. But yeah, they are open to the one-stop and two-stop today, both the Mercedes and the Ferraris, as well as the McLarens. So Merkel one-stop, they always do. It depends. It depends how the race is unfolding. but more often than not, we have seen the one stop like be viable. So yeah, that's it really for the strategies. So one stop or two stop, everyone has the same amount of tyres to utilise. Further down the grid, well, Liam Lawson only has one set of hards to use. So does Carlos Sainz, so does Fernando Alonso, because they started on the hard compound tyres yesterday in the sprint race. That worked out very well for them. So they did say that may leave them vulnerable for today's race. So if they're going to do a two-stop, they'll be utilising two brand new sets of mediums rather than two brand new sets of hards. And that's really kind of it in relation to the differences of drivers available. Maybe tyres available, so maybe Hulkenberg and Ocon that may use a brand new set of softs, but I would still be very surprised if someone uses a brand new set of softs at the back of the grid, because they're just going to die off too quickly. So Norris is in trouble at the moment, it does seem. So yeah, they're still in that garage for Lando Norris, so it looks like it's going to be a difficulty of him starting on the grid. Could be a pit lane start, might not even start this race, so we'll see. So, pit stop lost time, guys. Pit stop lost time. The all-important information for today, of course, with safety cars. There has been a 50% chance of safety cars here in the previous 7 years of coming to the Shanghai circuit. Of course, we haven't come to Shanghai as often as the last 7 years because of COVID. But green flag conditions, the pit stop lost time is around 24 seconds. And then stationary, well, the safety car VSC, that is 15.5 seconds. So there is a 9 seconds, almost a 9-second advantage by pitting under the safety car. That is the advantage you will be able to gain. That is what the teams will be looking at to try and utilise, especially with there being a potential of a two-stop race today. Expect safety cars early in this new regulation set. Yeah, I'm hoping we don't, but I am fully expecting some VSCs today and some maybe not a full safety car, but at least some VSCs. 44 on the podium today. Mark your words. Well, he's got an opportunity to do so, isn't he? He's got an opportunity. However fast the wing flips going into a braking zone will still disrupt the car, but you're right, they'd save time on the straights for sure. Yeah, they said they're not comfortable yet on the... They're just not comfortable yet. They don't have the right amount of data to make sure that it's properly efficient and safe, I guess, as well. So they said it would be back out in FP1 in Suzuka. I think I heard Lewis say they wasn't expecting it to really come out until round 4, round 5. So it is something that they intend to put on the car, probably not full time, but at certain circuits. But yeah, it's just not ready right now. So weather, 0% chance of rain. It's been the case all weekend. It does look a little bit cloudy though in Shanghai. It's not been the bright blue skies that we have seen all weekend, but no rain in the air, which we have seen in the past. So still yet to see how these cars will handle in the rain. Whenever we do eventually get that first wet weather race, that is going to be chaotic, I reckon. That's going to be chaotic. So, yeah, but no wet weather here this weekend. Those are your expected strategies and tyre selections for today. It's going to be an interesting one. The weather is just cold. Yeah, the weather is just cold, and that leans itself into the thermal degradation that we have seen here. So we've seen a lot of graining on the front left. So it means obviously the tyre starts to slide over the surface more. It's not like it's not physical degradation because the track isn't very abrasive. So it's not like it's a rough circuit, a rough track where the tyre is being chewed up by the track. It's because of the cold surfaces that the tyre is starting to slide over the track more, and that causes the graining that we see on the front left. Are we done with grass fires from the ground effect era? We should be. We still do see some. We do still see some sparks, but these cars aren't going flat out through corners that they used to because they just don't have the downforce capabilities anymore. So yes, no more grass fires, hopefully. The Ferraris killed their tyres in yesterday's sprint. They did. Well, in particular, Lewis Hamilton did. So that was a learning curve for him. He realised how much that front left takes pain if he gets into a battle early on. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Ferraris approach the race today. How are they going to approach this race today? Do they want to get too punchy with Mercedes, or are they just going to let Mercedes go off into the lead and play the long game here today? I'm really intrigued to hear what their options are and their approaches are from the drivers and the strategy team. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can I consider handing out lemon slices in the future? You'll bring the tequila for the great community we've built here. Maybe, yeah. Piastri said tyre deg was high on this track. It really is. It really is. And look, particularly for someone like Piastri, who has always struggled more so with his tyre degradation than his teammates, I'd expect to hear that comment. But yeah, no, we saw that yesterday. So you don't want to let the Mercedes just drive off into the distance, but then if it's going to be a detriment to your race, but the Ferraris do have the race pace over McLaren, so they maybe can afford to push the Mercedes more. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I still expect the Mercedes to win. I think that's just at the stage of the season we're at, and we need some mechanical gremlins and to come into play, and maybe the Mercedes tyres to completely fall off of a cliff. I don't know, but yeah, George Russell has never been the best on his tyre management. Kimi Antonelli, I don't know about Kimi. It's too early to say about his tyre management. We didn't really get to see much of it last year, so yeah. Ted can't find any celebrities to talk to, just casual. It does seem like it's a very quiet grid, to be honest with you. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of opportunity to move about on the grid this morning at China. It's probably one of the emptiest grids I've ever seen. Normally everyone's like packed, like shoulder to shoulder. So yeah, I mean, if you ever get access and want to get up close to the cars, it seems like the Chinese grid is the one to do it. Right, let's set up for the race, shall we? As we're only 16 minutes away. Right. Thank you, Maya. Much appreciated. Feels like Kimi is pretty aggressive on his tyres, but I have faith for his first GP win. Yeah, I'm not going to say he is or he isn't good on his tyres. I think he is an aggressive driver for sure, but I don't know. I can't think. It wasn't an area of focus of him last year, but I really like zoned in on. Whereas George, we've got a lot more data available to know that George, when it came to Lewis and stuff, he did have a habit of chewing up his tyres more. But yeah, we'll see. I hope Hamilton will be chilled, not fighting. He should think about getting that podium today and be more strategic. Well, if anything, that's Hamilton's strength, isn't it? Hamilton's strength is thinking of the bigger picture, and he's definitely better in a race than he is like in qualifying. And he would have learnt a lot yesterday. Maybe got caught up in the battle. Of course, it is a sprint race. But today, maybe a difference in approach. And especially with seeing what happened against his teammate yesterday, with his teammate just holding back and looking after his tyres. And I know obviously there was lots of criticisms, understandably, about Charles Leclerc's approach yesterday with the sprint race. And look, I still stand by that there wasn't really an opening for Charles Leclerc to get involved with George and Lewis's battle, and it was a smart decision by him to just sit back. It's a valid strategy to just sit back and look after your tyres. He maybe could have try and sent it more on George Russell, but look, it was what I was more annoyed with from Charles was that when there was an opening for him on Lewis, that's when he went for a move, not so much an opening on George. So that was what was a bit frustrating to watch when even Lewis and George went side by side. It's like, okay, I'm going to poke my nose on Lewis more so than poke my nose on George. But there wasn't ever really an opening on George from what I saw from Charles's perspective. And then moan, obviously, about the will-to-will racing that he had with his teammate. Well, that's the strategy that you decided to take upon yourself, wasn't it? So, yeah. What's my real name? Scott. You don't think these new regulations suit Max and think Max will be a shadow of him for himself? Well, I don't think you can say if they'll suit him or not, to be honest. I think it's still well too early to say. And the reason for that is because he just doesn't have the car underneath him. Until he has a car that can fight for podiums and score like race wins and stuff. Where's my race control message gone? Oh, there it is. I don't think you can judge Max's driving at the moment because that Red Bull is an absolute heap of rubbish, to put it politely. Anytime you look, I task anyone to go and look at an onboard of Max Verstappen on a lap around here in the Red Bull, and that that car, there isn't one corner where I'm not watching Max seesaw at the steering wheel. It has no grip at all. So, yeah, Verstappen and Hadjar doing what they can with that car here this weekend, but it's just fundamentally flawed for this circuit. Is Lando starting from the pit lane? Well, as it stands, yes. His car hasn't been wheeled out onto the grid, and I think he's going to be starting from the pit lane if he's lucky. We haven't had any further information, but he's even going to be starting this race, so... how am I feeling at West Ham drew with City? I am over the blooming moon. That felt like I celebrated that point yesterday like a win because we're finally out of the drop zone. And the pressure is fully on the other teams moving forward. So, yeah, big day today for Tottenham and Forest, of course, in their games. But positive steps for West Ham because I would have looked at that as a guaranteed loss not too long ago. Every F1 legend has a regulation set that they struggle more with. I just feel like this will be Max's. Yeah, no, look, you can still have that opinion, and I think it does go against his natural driving style. That's why he's been so outspoken about these regulations, because clearly he's not enjoying them. And if you don't enjoy something and you don't have the confidence of a car underneath you, you're less likely to perform. And that was my worry at the start of this season for Max, is not his driving ability and his skills. It was his mindset of an enjoyment of the sport. And that if he feels like very quickly that the car is, like we're seeing here this weekend, not enjoyable to drive, which he said these cars aren't from the outset anyway, and least of all, not fighting for podiums and race wins, then his interest is very much not going to be in F1 this year, and it's going to be more so on his other motorsport ventures that he has going on, racing in the Nordschleife, and that's why I put him in 5th where I did. And I mean, if it continues on like this for the rest of the season, he won't even be finishing in the top 5, will he? Because that Red Bull can't get anywhere near the McLarens and the Ferraris and Mercedes. So, are the drivers' icons fixed yet? No, Henry. We still had that earlier on. They are lined up on the grid right now. We should see them, as we have done in previous race sessions. We should see those icons lined up on the grid, but we don't. So I've got a suspicion that we, again, are going to have to deal with the race start like we did in the sprint race. So if you're just joining us and you missed the sprint race yesterday, what happened? Well, as you can see, we wasn't able to see the drivers out on track, and we just had to keep an eye out on the timing tower because the timing tower was accurate. And you will see the green light message on race start on the race control messages. That's what we'll be keeping an eye out for. Straight to the timing tower, and then once they get into turn 1, that's where the driver icons will appear out on the track map. So that is most likely what is going to happen again today. I think we fared pretty well with it yesterday. So you will be able to see the changing of positions, at least on the timing tower, for the start of the race. So crazy, but this is Lewis's 6th reg change and Alonso's 7th. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But Red Bull was quite fast in Australia. They should improve in Suzuka. You would presume so, Brad. Yeah, very different circuits. I mean, of course, the energy recovery is going to play a big factor as well. But that's not really the issue here this weekend. The issue here this weekend has been the Red Bull's tyre degradation and their aero dependency. So from a standpoint, if there's any positives to take away from this weekend as a Red Bull fan, I know there's not a lot, it is that the Red Bull's power unit is delivering. It's the balance of the car itself from an aero perspective. So don't worry about Williams. They have signs up with them. Think positive. So we have 3 cars in the pit lane, by the way. Gabriel Bortoletto, Alex Albon, and Lando Norris. Are we getting 3 cars starting from the pit lane? Can Russell break the record of Verstappen 10 wins in a row? Maybe. Yeah, maybe, the way he's going. If they have this advantage throughout the season, then yeah, 100% he can. Do I think the drivers put enough pressure on the FIA? Will they change to another format like V8s or V10s early? I don't know about how early they'll do it, but yeah, there may be discussions about maybe bringing back V8s or V10s for 2029, maybe. We are supposed to be with these engine regs for the next 3 years, so maybe. I would be very surprised if those discussions aren't already ongoing, and we will see. Albon wanted to make significant change to the car. It's almost a test session. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, look, he qualified 18th, and Yeah, they've got to do what they can. They're massively overweight. Carlos Sainz was not too bad yesterday. Apparently, they did say, I saw a tweet from James Vowles saying that they did make significant changes to Sainz's car, and Albon's car remained the same, and Sainz did make improvements. So it wouldn't surprise me if they've made those changes to Albon's car as well to reflect what Carlos Sainz's car was able to do yesterday. So we'll see if he fares much better in the race. But don't expect them to score points. They're some way off performance at the moment. But welcome back, everyone. Welcome. Hope you are good. Only moments away from the Chinese Grand Prix getting underway here. Just over 7 minutes. If you miss the strategies for today, it is looking like a mixture of a 1 or 2 stop. High degradation here at the Chinese circuit. We saw yesterday in the sprint race how much that front left tyre is going to hurt with these cars in a battle in particular. So will drivers choose to battle earlier on, or will they just hold position and think about the long runs here and the race as a whole? George Russell, it's going to be interesting to see if Ferrari do get ahead. How hard are they going to fight against the Mercedes? Will they let the Mercedes drive off? I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see how that battle at the front, as we expect is going to be a battle, how that battle is going to unfold. So, yeah, of course, always the possibility of VSCs and safety cars. We've already got gremlins in the McLaren of Lando Norris. He hasn't done any sighting that reconnaissance lap, so he is in the garage at the moment. They're trying to fix an electrical issue. I'm not even sure if he's going to be able to start this race, let alone from the pit lane. Gabriel Bortoletto is in the pit lane as well. Another gremlin for Audi. Remember, Hulkenberg didn't even get to start this race last week, and it was only Bortoletto that started. Hopefully it's not roles reversed for this weekend and it's Hulkenberg starting and Bortoletto retiring before the race gets underway. Alex Albon also starting from the pit lane after making significant changes to his car to reflect the changes that they made to Sainz's car yesterday, which were positive. They were positive for sure, because Sainz was a lot closer to the to getting out of Q1, but still not good at the moment. Still not good. I bet that battle with Norris is going to bottle the start of this race. But I don't know. No, Norris has had good starts, to be fair. Norris has had 2 good starts that we've seen in the sprint race and in the sprint race and the main race in Australia. He's actually had 2 good launches and good starts. Australia, he got boxed in because of where he was on his grid position, so he could have done better. And in the sprint quali, yes, Hamilton shot up on the inside, but we know how quick that Ferrari is at the moment. They're the best on the grid when it comes to races. Dumb question, I know, but do tyres not last longer this season with how straight dependent these cars are? No, not necessarily, because the cars have less downforce for the corners, so the cars are sliding a bit more. So there's a lot more, the carcass of the tyre is travelling more so over the... Hang on, have we got Piastri in the pit lane as well? What? Have we got a double pit lane start for McLaren? Surely not. Surely not. Right, well, we are just moments away, guys, from the tyre blankets being taken off of these cars. Time for a quick lube break. I suggest you guys do the same. We then have 56 laps. They'll be starting the formation lap. We'll have 56 laps of the Chinese Grand Prix. Back in a jiffy, guys. Oh, tyres. Tyres. Mate, we have a double McLaren pit lane start. We have a double McLaren pit lane start. Oh my goodness. Wow. So, as expect, we have a varying strategies here. Like to see it. So we have the top 5, understandably, but not going to be top 5 anymore because Piastri is starting from the pit lane as well. Not sure why, but we have Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc on the medium compound tyres. Understandable. Leaves them open for the 1 or 2 stop today. Piastri and Norris starting from the pit lane. It's a medium or hard compound tyre. Medium hard compound tyre for those. Gasly on the mediums. We have Verstappen and Hadjar on the softs, so they're going aggressive at the start of this race. Behrman is on the mediums, and then we have Hulkenberg, Colapinto and Ocon split strategies for the Haas's there on the hard compound tyre. So looking to go long in this first stint. Liam Lawson on the mediums, Lindblad on the hards. Split strategy for the Racing Bulls there. Bortoletto starting from the pit lane. He's on the hards. Carlos Sainz mediums, Alonso hards, Bottas mediums, Stroll hards, Perez mediums, Albon hards. So we have varying strategies, split strategies here. Interesting. McLaren in the pits means opportunity for Gasly. It does indeed, yes. Does indeed. So, moments away from this Chinese Grand Prix getting underway. We will probably have to contend. We will probably have to deal, guys, with the interrupted or lack of telemetry at the start of this race. But we will do our best. So we will see the drivers probably appear at the first corner on the track map, but we will know when green light is out as per the race control messages, and then with the timing tower as well, we will be able to see who is where. So that is how we are going to see the start of this race, just FYI, guys. Ooh, right. Hope you are well, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. Trying to hit 80,000 subscribers and 100,000 for this season. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in. But if you're just joining us, you are joining at a good time because we are moments away, 1.5 minutes before this formation lap gets started. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are starting from the pit lane, it looks like. Then I'll see what the reasons are for. Lando Norris definitely has a electrical issue, and I wonder if that's the same for Oscar Piastri. Still not sure if Lando will even be starting this race, but the fact of it, there are tyre blankets, and we know, hang on. Yeah, we still don't know if the McLarens will be starting this race. Both of them are in the garage. They're both in the garage. In their cars, though. Oscar Piastri does look like that he is. There is movement in Oscar Piastri's garage, so he definitely looks like he is going to be starting this race. But we don't know about the rest of the... we don't know about Lando Norris because he hasn't moved at all, so... But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you. Here we go. 30 seconds from the drivers starting a formation lap. So we could have 4 cars starting from the pit lane and only the second race weekend of the season. And it sounds like electrical issues for that of Lando Norris. So Kimi Antonelli on pole position. We'll run through your grid once they make their way around the formation lap here. And we will see. We're only moments away from the start of the Chinese Grand Prix. It was eventful yesterday in the sprint race, wasn't it? So let's see if we get a repeat of that today. But of course, a lot of racing ahead of us, varying strategies, and a race circuit where the tyres do degrade. So will we see the drivers as aggressive as yesterday, trying to gain track position when they know it will hurt their tyres and maybe their overall race hurt that overall race. So we should have the formation lap underway. We will get that any moment now. With them probably appearing at the end of the first corner. Telemetry issues here this weekend. As you can see, boop, there they are, right at the end of the pit lane. That is unfortunately how I think this race is going to start for us. We won't see the track map icons until they reach the first corner, but we will be able to we will know whether they are where they are on the start of this grid and their positions leading down into turn 1 from the race start via the timing tower. So just as it was yesterday in the sprint race. So with our formation lap underway, lo and behold, here is your starting grid for the Chinese Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli on pole position, the youngest pole position of F1 history at 19 years old. Great from him. George Russell, who had his gremlins in that Mercedes yesterday, did a very good job of getting that car onto P2 with no dashboard and no information available to him on his actual push lap, so he was flying blind. Lewis Hamilton lines up in P3 with Charles Leclerc in P4, the first second row lockout for that of Ferrari. All eyes on Ferrari with their brilliant race starts that we've seen this season. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris confirmed to start in the pit lane at best. We don't know if Lando Norris or Piastri are even going to start this race yet. We have seen movement in the Piastri garage, but Lando Norris has not even done any reconnaissance laps. So very, very big worries for Lando Norris. Pierre Gasly starting in P7. He will have a couple of clear grid positions ahead of him now. He has those McLaren starting at best in the pit lane. Verstappen and Hadjar on the hard compound tyres there. They're going aggressive at the start. It's been a poor weekend for the Red Bull. We'll see how they fare, but it could be another long day for Max and Hadjar. Ollie Behrman in P10 looking to score his third successive race in the points. Scored points in the sprint race yesterday and in Australia, and a few positions ahead of his teammate. He starts on the mediums. Hulkenberg is in 11th. Colapinto is in 12th. Esteban Ocon in 13th. He's on the hards. Split strategy for the Haas. Liam Lawson is on the mediums, and Lindblad is in 15th on the hards. 14th and 15th for the Racing Bulls. Split strategy there. Gabriel Bortoleto, unfortunately, starting in the pit lane in the Audi. Carlos Sainz is 17th. Alonso is 18th. Bottas is 19th. Stroll 20th. Sergio Perez 21st. And Alex Albon is now starting from the pit lane after making a multitude of changes to that Williams. We do get the icons, the track map icons. Oh no, they're continuing on. So do not fear. We saw this yesterday with the telemetry issues. They aren't doing a second formation lap. This is the same occurrence as yesterday with the race starts. So will try my best to time this, but keep an eye out, guys, on the race control message. All eyes on the race control message of when that green light is notified and we have the race start. That is what we are going on here. It's the best that we have to contend with. They should probably shoot off the screen right now, and then they will end up disappearing and reappearing at the first corner. There you go. This is exactly what we saw yesterday in the sprint race. So just moments away here from this Chinese Grand Prix getting underway. Still yet to see if the McLaren will be starting this race. Right. Two different issues, apparently. As Gabriel Bortoleto is not in his car. So it's a repeat of last week, where unfortunately we only have one Audi starting this race. That's a real shame for Audi. Gabriel Bortoleto not starting this race. Nico Hulkenberg this time around. Roles reversed from the Australian Grand Prix. So here we are, guys. Moments away from this Chinese Grand Prix getting underway as drivers are lined up on the grid. It's green light. We timed that incorrectly. It's green light. Away we go. Who's going to lead down into the first corner here? Keep an eye out as they make their way and appear out on track as Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc lead into the first corner. Another brilliant start from the Ferrari duo. And Lewis Hamilton, but Kimi Antonelli comes back at Charles Leclerc. And it's Lewis first, Antonelli second, Charles third with George fourth. I'm still unsure as whether the McLarens are even starting this race. And as we have a yellow flag as Lance Stroll is flagging at the rear there. And it seems that Max Verstappen has also had a repeat of his race start yesterday as I'm watching the race start, and both Ferrari drivers swept around the outside of the Mercedes duo, but Kimi Antonelli held on to the position and gained second place back from Charles Leclerc. But it is Lewis Hamilton from Kimi Antonelli, Charles Leclerc in P3, George Russell fourth with Gasly in fifth. Behrman is up 4 places into sixth because of the McLarens not even starting this race, it seems, as Pierre Hadjar is into P7. Colapinto is 8th place. Lindblad is up 6 places into 9th, and Lawson is 10th. Alonso is up 7 places at the start here, with Sergio Perez lagging at the rear as there was a brief yellow flag. I'm not entirely sure who went around. Max Verstappen is down 6 places as Hadjar has now got past Ollie Behrman. But here we go, the first run down to turn 14. Lewis has a yellow flag at the back here. Who has made contact? Who has made contact at the back here? Who is falling through the field? It seems like Ollie Behrman is falling through the field here. I'm not sure if it's him who's got an issue. As no, Isaac Hadjar is falling through the field. Surely not. He's up there on the track map in P, going around the last corner. So has Isaac Hadjar got issues? And has he already got to retire from this race? I really don't know with the telemetry right now. But keep an eye out on the timing tower. That is what we are looking at here. No, Isaac has gone off. Isaac did go off. So Isaac spun out of turn 13, and the track map has taken a little while to catch up. And I think Hadjar has retired from this race as he's in the pits already, or unless he's going to make a pit stop. But wow, who spun? Who spun? Someone spun. Ollie Behrman spun, I think it was. Ollie Behrman spun. So he's down into 13th place after a not too shabby start. But it is Lewis Hamilton leading from Kimi Antonelli in P1. Charles Leclerc is P3 with George Russell in P4. We have Colapinto up into P6. A brilliant start from the Alpines. Of course, the McLarens are a non-starter for this week. So big shame for anyone. And L in the chat if you have the Haasies, not the Haasies, the McLarens in your fantasy team. Max Verstappen now back up into P11, but it seems that Isaac Hadjar is back out. So Isaac Hadjar had a spin on those soft compound tyres, and he is now at the back of the field here in P18. We have Alex Albon, a non-starter as well. I thought he was going to be starting this race. So everyone we expected to start from the pit lane did not start at all. But here we go. Kimi Antonelli, George Russell on the back of both Ferraris here as they make their way down into turn 14. How hard will Lewis Hamilton defend here? But I think Kimi Antonelli has got ahead of Hamilton before they even get down into turn 14. That Mercedes power unit so quick in a straight line as Ollie Behrman gets past Fernando Alonso now as the Aston Martin driver starts to fall back through the field after a brilliant race start. So Antonelli leads from Lewis Hamilton with Charles Leclerc in P3 and George Russell in P4. A very long way to go in this race. Only 2 laps completed here. Antonelli from Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc in P3 and George Russell in P4. But they make their way down into turn 1. And George Russell gains third place from Charles Leclerc. He sweeps past that of George Russell as Max Verstappen got past Carlos Sainz there, who is up 6 places. There's a turn 3 incident noting Perez and Bottas, the two Cadillac drivers connecting there at the start of this race. Not entirely sure what happened. That's why there was a brief yellow flag down at the start of this race into the first corner. And that is why Perez is so far off of the field right now, because Valtteri Bottas is ahead of Nico Hulkenberg and currently holding up the Audi driver, but probably not for much longer, as Hulkenberg does indeed get past Valtteri Bottas there and is back up into P14. But it's Antonelli leading from Lewis Hamilton, from George Russell and Leclerc. But keep an eye out on Pierre Gasly pulling away from the field of Colapinto, Lawson, that mid-pack, and he's actually catching Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly is catching this pack of Antonelli, Hamilton, Russell, and Leclerc right now. 1.6 seconds is the gap. Keep an eye out on Pierre Gasly. Could he play a role in this race today? Unbelievable performance from Gasly here this weekend in Alpine. They have definitely unlocked performance in that car. We thought it would be McLaren unlocking the performance in that Mercedes power unit, but no, it seems like it is Alpine. So Lewis Hamilton has lost 1.1 seconds to Kimi Antonelli, and importantly, that overtake mode to the young Italian, the youngest pole sitter in F1 history at 19 years old. But he's now regained it under braking there into the last corner. So he has now regained overtake mode as he went through that detection zone. Will Charles Leclerc be able to regain P3 from George Russell? No, he won't, because George Russell gains P2 from Lewis Hamilton. And this is the now 1-2 for George Russell and Antonelli. They're back into the front running positions, but this is a long race ahead of us where tyre degradation and tyre management is going to be key. So will they pull out enough of a gap here, and how will the Ferraris play this? But keep an eye on Pierre Gasly. He's just lost a bit of time to that front 4, 2 seconds now. But of course, he needs to run his own race. A P5 with the McLarens not even starting this race would be a tremendous result for him. And if Colapinto can secure P6 as well, what a result it would be for Alpine. Liam Lawson is up 7 places into P7. Esteban Ocon into the points in P8, chasing down Lawson on that hard, as he's on the hard compound tyre. Arvid Lindblad is in P9 with Max Verstappen in P10. As George Russell, watching a replay there, got ahead of Lewis Hamilton before they even got into the braking zone of turn 1, as he's done the fastest first and second sector. So will we see a battle between the two Mercedes drivers? How are they going to play this? Surely George Russell is going to go at Kimi Antonelli. He wants a 100% record for the start of this season right now, as he is P2, chasing down his teammate 1 second behind. Lewis Hamilton not losing George though, and surely the Ferrari drivers are just going to try and stay in touching distance of the Mercedes as best as they can. Pierre Gasly 2.4 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. Moving back down, Ocon seems to be on the attack of Liam Lawson, but not close enough in the braking zone down into turn 14. Max Verstappen update. He is P10. Terrible start from Max Verstappen. An exact repeat of yesterday where he almost fell directly to the back of the field after almost stalling on the start of the grid. So Max Verstappen has recovered, though, a few positions at the start of this race and is back up into P10. Carlos Sainz doing very well as Max Verstappen could be attacking Arvid Lindblad here and making his way down into turn 1, and he does indeed. Max Verstappen up into P9 and making short work of the only rookie on the grid this year. But Lindblad, not one to roll over, says, I don't care if you're a 4-time world champion. I don't care if you are in the supposed quicker, bigger, better car of the Red Bull, because I'm taking that position back as Lindblad gets back P6 and Max Verstappen looking to try and get back that position on Arvid Lindblad, just like he did in the Australian Grand Prix. So Lindblad not rolling over for Max Verstappen. Moving back down to this, Carlos Sainz is in P11 as Russell and Antonelli pulling out a gap to Lewis Hamilton now. 1.2 seconds is the gap, with George Russell setting the fastest lap of the race last time out. 3 temps quicker than that of his teammate Antonelli, who leads this race. Moving down the rest of the field, Ollie Behrman is P12, Hulkenberg is P13, Alonso 14th, Bottas 15th, Stroll 16th, Perez 17th, and Hadjar is in 18th after a spin into turn 13 earlier on. Not entirely sure what happened there, but watching the race start again, brilliant launch from both the Ferraris, and well, Charles Leclerc just unable to hold on to P2 as he was on the much tighter line, and Antonelli was a bit more on the racing line. So Liam Lawson is under attack from Esteban Ocon. I think Esteban Ocon has got, they're side by side, Esteban Ocon and Liam Lawson, as they come out of turn 14, and Ocon comes out on top and is into P7, and this is the race for Esteban Ocon needs, because he has been a little bit shown up by his teammate at the start of this season. But will Liam Lawson come back at him as they make their way down into turn 1? I don't think he can. Lindblad is going to have to go defensive again on Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen just not able to get ahead of Lindblad as Behrman gets ahead of Carlos Sainz into P11 after a little bit of a big wobble earlier on at the start of this race down into turn 14. But as we join the front of the pack again, it is Kimi Antonelli leading from George Russell by 1.5 seconds, with Lewis Hamilton 1.4 seconds back. 37.5 for Antonelli last time out, 37.4 for Russell, and a 37.6 for Hamilton, and a 37.8 for Leclerc. So this is a race of attrition now for the Ferraris to try and probably look after their tyres, as Behrman did go into a spin, and Behrman, oh my goodness. So the reason Behrman lost so much time is because he was racing against Isaac Hadjar very, very hard, and Isaac Hadjar spun directly in front of him, and he had to take avoiding action and go well off the racing circuit. So that's why he lost so much time and so many positions there, Ollie Behrman, so that he is on a race of recovery right now, but still has an intact Haas car. So very, very long way to go in this race with 51 laps remaining. Antonelli leads from George Russell with with Lewis Hamilton in P3. Charles Leclerc is P4 with Gasly in P2. Gasly is 4.1 seconds ahead of Connor Pinto. Of course, we have the two McLarens non-starters for this race. That is not breaking news, but that is the big news before this race even got underway. But both McLarens retired from the Chinese Grand Prix before it even began, so they are do not starts. Turn 3 incident, by the way, at the start of this race between Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. No further investigation as Bottas gets ahead of Fernando Alonso into turn 14. Good to see the Cadillacs actually getting racy. Difference in strategy, though, between Bottas and Fernando Alonso as they're on the medium. Bottas and Alonso on the hards. Both Aston Martins on the hards. But good to see Cadillac actually having a battle themselves. As we rejoin Max Verstappen in his battle with Arvid Lindblad, Max Verstappen is actually now getting closed down upon by Ollie Behrman, because you can see Max on the soft compound tyre. They wanted an aggressive race start, but actually Max had the complete opposite, because he stalled almost at the start of this race, and then a repeat of the sprint race start, fell through the field, and well, now he's having to recover on soft compound tyres, but undoubtedly starting to hurt 9 laps in. Well, 7 laps into this race, but 9 laps old they are. They started on used softs. Ollie Behrman is on brand new mediums, and well, Ollie Behrman will probably, yes, in that Haas, make quick work of Max Verstappen, because he did a 38.6 last time around, and Verstappen, who's stuck behind Arvid Lindblad on the hard, did a 39.2, so he's 6 temps quicker right now, Ollie Behrman, so we'll see if he's going to make quick work of Max Verstappen, as the gap at the front between Antonelli and Russell is 1.4 seconds, slowly pulling out a gap on the Ferrari duo of Hamilton and Leclerc. 37.9 last time out for Hamilton, and Leclerc slightly slower of a 38.1. We'll watch them as they cross the start-finish line now. Antonelli at 37.4, Russell at 37.3, as Ollie Behrman is looking on the attack of Max Verstappen. Will he have an opportunity down into turn 1? Max Verstappen will have overtake enabled, though, as he's still within that 1 second range of Arvid Lindblad, Arvid Lindblad is also within that 1 second range and overtake mode of Liam Lawson. But let's keep an eye on those three as they make their way down into turn 1, and we'll update you again on the gap between the top 4. As we are now on lap 8 of this race. As no, it does seem like that with that overtake mode, it kind of leveled itself out there. So Antonelli, 1.5 seconds ahead of George Russell. Hamilton is now 3.8 seconds off of Antonelli and 2.3 seconds off of George Russell in P2. And Charles Leclerc is staying within the slipstream of his teammate, within that 1 second range, and just did a 37.9 there. So slightly quicker than his teammate, trading kind of laps at the moment, and just obviously aiming for a delta. Very long race here. We know that the Mercedes is much quicker in clean air, but they need to look after their tyres here after what they learned in the sprint race yesterday. So we'll see how the Mercedes truly are on their tyres. I expect them to be very good. Australia wasn't really a race circuit where we see that tyre management come into play. While they did do 46 laps on the hard compound tyre, it is a track that has always been a pretty standard one-stop, whereas here at China, it has always been a track that sits in between the 1 and 2 stop strategy. So still a very long way to go in this race today, guys. Big thank you for everyone for tuning in. By the way, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. As Lindblad looks like to be on the attack of Liam Lawson, as Max Verstappen is starting to lose a bit of ground to Lindblad. He's lost an all-important 1 second range as Lindblad may be looking to go for the move on Liam Lawson. The teammates here need to be careful and think about the bigger picture, but they are on different strategies. So Liam Lawson is on the medium, whereas Lindblad is on the hard compound tyres. So there may be team orders coming soon, or maybe they won't even need team orders, as Lindblad is all over the rear wing of his teammate, and Behrman closing up the gap on Verstappen. Verstappen getting very close under braking there, as we know he is good in. Even in this Red Bull, the power unit isn't an issue. It's definitely the cornering ability of that Red Bull right now. As Charles Leclerc did a lap there, but was 2 tenths quicker than his teammate. But just over a tenth quicker than his teammate last time around. So Hamilton ahead of Charles Leclerc. Them two probably working together. Hopefully they don't fight each other today like they did in the sprint quali yesterday, because there needs to be a bigger picture and a very long way to go in this race. But undoubtedly, Charles will probably want track position, as will Lewis Hamilton as well. Pierre Gasly plodding around very nicely here. The Alpines starting to pull out a gap to their competition, as Arvid Lindblad... Arvid Lindblad actually let Lawson go through last time around, was it? That's what I'm just watching on the TV coverage, but I thought Lawson was ahead of Lindblad always. But a bit of a battle forming there between Lawson, Lindblad, Verstappen and Behrman for the last point scoring positions. Esteban Ocon has pulled away from that battle with the racing bulls and is starting to chase down Franco Colapinto. You can see there an advantage of Esteban Ocon. He almost took 2 tenths out of Colapinto in turn 11 and 12 alone. And you can see that interval time where it is circled means that he is gaining on the car ahead. If it is highlighted, it means they're within that 1 second range and can use overtake mode. Similarly, George Russell starting to gain and chipping away at his teammate Kimi Antonelli, as Liam Lawson, wasn't happy about the send from Arvid Lindblad and just saying we are losing time as they're reviewing, as Arvid Lindblad gets the position again from Liam Lawson, as Behrman now overtakes Max Verstappen, who is on those old soft compound tyres. And well, who is going to pit here? Who has just pitted? Liam Lawson has pitted off of the medium compound tyre, as is Max Verstappen off of the softs as well. So we have our first pitters of this race very early on, 10 laps in. Isaac Hadjar was technically the first pitter of this race after a spin that he had in front of Ollie Behrman. But Ollie Behrman pitting there, as is and Liam Lawson pitting, as is Carlos Sainz as well. So they're getting off this mediums early, and this is a clear committance to the 2-stop today. Very early on with 47 laps remaining. They will not be able to take the hard compound tyre. 47 laps here at Shanghai. It is not like Australia. These tyres are hurting here, and that is definitely them committing to that 2-stop strategy. As we have a yellow, as who's around there? Is that Sergio Perez who's gone round? Waiting to see exactly what has occurred there in turn 2 and turn 3. Is there debris out on circuit? I really do not know here this weekend with the challenges that we've had with the telemetry. But waiting to see why there is a yellow. Surely there's debris out on circuit. There's a yellow in turn 2 and turn 3. Who has had contact there into turn 2? And we have a safety car. Oh, wow, we have a safety car. So there must be a significant amount of debris out on the racing iron. And no, it's an Aston Martin. We have Lance Stroll has parked his car His icon's not even on track, and we thought the Aston Martins would be able to get to the end of this race, and well, they have. Aston Martin lost the car here as Lance Stroll is right off at the top of turn 1, and that is why we have a safety car, just like Nico Hulkenberg yesterday, and this is undoubtedly now a cheap pit stop, and you have to feel really for those who just made a pit stop of Liam Lawson, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, because they pitted the lap before, and as we saw at the start of this session here, it is a 9-second advantage for pitting under the safety car than it is in full green flag conditions. So Lawson, Verstappen, Sainz and Hadjar going to lose significant amount of time here to the rest of the field. But double stacks for Mercedes, double stacks for Ferrari. Who is going to come out where? Arvid Lindblad is going to come out ahead of Charles Leclerc, as Charles Leclerc with a double stack, as it was in the sprint race yesterday, is now behind Arvid Lindblad. Maybe Arvid Lindblad will pit, I'm not sure. He's on the hard compound tyre. But Hamilton now on the hards, Russell now on the hards. And well, this is maybe them committing to a 2-stop today. It's going to be a very, very long wait for them to go on the hard compound tyre. But Antonelli leads from Franco Colapinto in P2. Esteban Ocon is in P3 because they decided not to pit as they started on this hard compound tyre. So George Russell is looking like he's going to have to clear Colapinto and Esteban Ocon ahead of him. As Antonelli did rejoin ahead of the safety car with where the pit lane exit is. Lewis Hamilton is P5. Arvid Lindblad is P6. Also started on the hard, so he's not yet to pit, as is Nico Hulkenberg in P8 as well. So Charles Leclerc, with that double stack, does lose a position to Arvid Lindblad, staying out there on the hard compound tyre. And we know how punchy Arvid Lindblad has been. He's not one to roll over, but you do expect the Ferrari to have the pace comfortably over of the racing bull. Hulkenberg, yes, in P8 there. Gasly is now onto the hard compound tyre in P9, as is Ollie Behrman in P10 as well. Alonso yet to pit. He is the sole Aston Martin out there. That's why there was a safety car, because Lance Stroll, who is being ushered or chauffeured back on a scooter to the paddock, has unfortunately come to a stop at the exit of turn 1, and that is why we have a safety car here for the safe removal of his car, as there will be undoubtedly a recovery vehicle out on track at some point. So Stroll out. We now have 5 retirees from this race, but it is a non-stop. We had 4 cars not even start this race. We had Albon not start, Bortoletto not start, Norris and Piastri double non-start. Piastri, 2 race weekends in a row, hasn't started. He hasn't even started this season yet, really. He started, of course, the sprint race yesterday, but he hasn't even started a full race this weekend yet, this season yet. That is a real shame for the Australian. Of course, Australia, we know why that happened, but the mechanical gremlins that clearly are in that McLaren, software issues, I think it was, or electrical issue for Lando Norris, and there is a separate issue for Piastri, is what I overheard, so not sure what that is, as it seems that drivers are now overtaking the safety car? Surely not. No, that's surely the safety car. The telemetry here is really skew-if around the first corner, so apologies, guys. It does not look like that they are ahead of the safety car. Safety car, I can confirm via TV coverage, they are all behind the safety car. So the safety car, the telemetry is a bit off at the moment, as Sergio Perez is coming into the pit lane now. Oh, dearie me. Dearie me. So, yes, what an interesting start to this race. So, we're going to have a race reset here. It does definitely seem like that it is going to be It's definitely going to be right now a 2-stop race. The way that it is playing right now. Isaac Hadjar, he unfortunately had a spin at the start of this race. Ollie Behrman had to take avoiding action. It was through turn 13, and that is why he is so far down the grid. He has made a second pit stop already, Isaac Hadjar, and he's on his second set of hard compound tyres. So this seems like it's going to be maybe another. They don't have another brand new set of mediums available to them, so it's definitely going to be a 2-stop, I think. 45 laps around this track, or 46, 47, 40 odd laps around this track on the set of same hard compound tyres is just not going to be doable. This safety car has come out too early for that, so they are definitely committing right now to a 2-stop strategy. That's definitely what they're doing. Right. I need to end the poll of who we thought would win this race, by the way. I need to end the poll. Many votes. Many of you thought it would be Lewis Hamilton who wins this race today. 31% of you think George Russell. Antonelli, 22%. And Leclerc, 12%. So still a very long way to go. Still a very, very long way to go. Is Red Bull allergic to grip? It does seem that way. It does seem that way. So we do have clear in Sector 3. So we'll probably have one more lap under the safety car as they make their way around the last corner here. The safety car is indeed ahead of all these drivers. Do not fear. The track map, we have had issues with telemetry here this weekend at China, which has been a bit difficult for us, but you can see there the safety car icon getting ahead of Kimi Antonelli. So I think this lap we will have the safety car in, as we have got confirmation there via the race control messages that the track is clear in Sector 3, which is where basically the first sector, around that first couple of corners, which is where Lance Stroll had to pull over safely and retire his car. Similar to where that was where Nico Hülkenberg pulled over yesterday in the sprint race. So let's have a rundown of your current grid for this race restart then. So safety car in this lap, confirmation. Kimi Antonelli leads from Franco Colapinto, still yet to pit and started on the hard compound tyre. And Esteban Ocon is in P3, still yet to pit and started on the hard compound tyre. Did not pit under this safety car. George Russell did pit and he is P4. But obviously the Mercedes made a poor start to this race, as we have seen so often. The Ferraris led, but then as we've seen repeatedly, the Mercedes then regained the positions from the Ferraris as Lewis Hamilton is in P5. Other than Lindblad, not yet to pit yet, either on the hard compound tyre. He's in P6. Charles Leclerc, P7. He's come out behind Arvid Lindblad after the double stack from Ferrari. Nico Hülkenberg still yet to pit as well. He's in P8 on the hards, as Pierre Gasly is technically in net 5th position. What a great start to the race it was for him, with him seeing the McLarens not start this race, and he's been plodding around very nicely. But now he has Ollie Behrman on his rear, because this has massively benefited Ollie Behrman, who's had to take a severe avoiding action and lost multiple positions from avoiding Isaac Hadjar's spin earlier on. Fernando Alonso is up 7 places into P11, still yet to make a pit stop. Liam Lawson is on a hard compound tyre now into P12. Max Verstappen on the hard compound tyre. Verstappen and Sainz, big losers here. And Verstappen and Sainz, big losers here because they pitted a lap prior to the safety car. So they lost out on that cheap pit stop. 9 seconds advantage it was. So Max Verstappen in P13 with work to do. Carlos Sainz P14, Bottas 15th, Perez 16th, and Hadjar, as we mentioned, had that spin at the start of this race, and that is why he is down in 17th place. But has made his way to the back of the field and is now only 3 places behind his teammate, but 7 positions off of the point scoring position. So going to be a tall order for Red Bull to score points today, but we'll see how they get on. So here we go. The race is about to get underway. The safety car is in. When is Kimi Antonelli going to put his foot down on the throttle? Is he going to go at the exit of turn 16? It does seem it is. He's backing up the rest of the field here. And here we go. Kimi Antonelli, his first safety car restart in his career from the front, as the 19-year-old was the youngest pole sitter. He's waiting. He's waiting for that start-finish line. He doesn't want to give as much of a slipstream as he possibly can from Colapinto, as here we go down into the first corner. And it's a great launch from Kimi Antonelli, and Colapinto's going to be under attack from Esteban Ocon as they make their way down into turn 1. Will Ocon be able to get round Franco Colapinto in the Alpine? Ocon, who's having a great race here. He had a great race last year in the Haas, but he's not been able to, as he just had to hold back as Hadjar has got ahead of Sergio Perez. So it is as you were for the order of proceedings here for this safety car restart, apart from Verstappen there, who's just got ahead of Fernando Alonso, the sole Aston Martin out there now after that retirement from Lance Stroll, which brought out this safety car, as Hamilton's got ahead of George Russell, importantly there. They're fighting the two former teammates as Hamilton gets ahead of George Russell and overtakes him down into turn 6. George will not like that whatsoever, as Hamilton catches Russell napping, as Russell did seem to struggle, or is struggling to light up these hard compound tyres here, as with that straight mode activated, Hamilton made a great move. He did a cutback as Russell locked up a little bit, got caught out, and Hamilton said, thank you very much, I'll take the cutback, as Colapinto and Ocon are fighting very hard here at the start of this race, as Hamilton is now on the back of Esteban Ocon. He needs to be careful, and I think Hamilton's going to get this move done quickly, but be careful of George Russell with that Mercedes power unit. We'll keep an eye on Charles Leclerc as well, who needs to make quick work of Arvid Lindblad who's still yet to make a pit stop. Isaac Hadjar making quick work of the back 3 there. He's up into P14 as Verstappen is up into P11. As Antonelli, as Hamilton does get past Esteban Ocon, and will have his sights set on Colapinto, as Leclerc also does make quick work of Arvid Lindblad. Made a lot of ground there up there in the last sector, as Behrman regains a position back from Nico Hülkenberg. So as Gasly. Not a good start for Pierre Gasly, who's in P10 right now, not able to make the start and the progression that we fall. As Leclerc also gets ahead of George Russell. Has George Russell got issues here at the restart of this race? I wonder, because he is losing time all over the place here, George Russell. He's been made quick work of Lewis Hamilton and now that of Charles Leclerc. He wasn't able to gain ground on Esteban Ocon. Are these the same gremlins that we saw in qualifying yesterday? We will see as Russell is looking to get back over and overtake Charles Leclerc, as we can see here. And this is good for the race overall, as Kimi Antonelli now has a 1 second advantage over Lewis Hamilton, who is looking to make quick work of him, as he does indeed. Down into turn 9, Lewis Hamilton, just like he did George Russell at the start of this race yesterday. He loves that corner, and Lewis is now up into P2. Charles Leclerc is P5, with George Russell in P6, and not able to make ground up on Charles Leclerc. We will see. Yet to hear any radio messages of George Russell complaining about his car. Maybe it's the same gremlins. Maybe it's him just not able to fire these hard compound tyres up. But keep an eye on that gap from George Russell. He is losing time, George Russell. Look at the interval time between George Russell and Charles Leclerc. He's over a second behind Charles Leclerc now, as Charles gets ahead of the heart of Esteban Ocon. And does George Russell have an issue? Still yet to get confirmation. Thank you, Dan, for becoming a part of the pit crew. Much appreciated here. He did gain a bit of time under braking there on Esteban Ocon, but George Russell losing ground on the lead of this race. We've got no effing grip, is what George Russell is complaining about. So is it an issue with the car, or is it just him struggling on this hard compound tyre to fire them up? As Hamilton is absolutely steaming ahead here. These Ferraris have switched these hard compound tyres on like no tomorrow. A 37.0 for Lewis Hamilton, a 37.2 for Charles Leclerc, and Antonelli did a 38.2, and Hamilton is now under the rear wing of Kimi Antonelli. But Kimi Antonelli did just respond with a 25.3 there, and George Russell did just get past Esteban Ocon. So is it just a case that it's taking the Mercedes a few laps to get these tyres up to speed? Esteban Ocon is in P6 now after being overtaken by the two Ferraris, and George Russell. Colapinto is next on the list for George Russell. Arvid Imblad is in P7, still holding up Ollie Behrman, as Ollie Behrman is going to probably get Arvid Imblad, who is still yet to make a pit stop. And yes, there we go, Kimi Antonelli now picking up the pace with that clean air, 29.229. So Kimi Antonelli now got those hard compound tyres up to speed. But Lewis Hamilton is in the slipstream of Kimi Antonelli and gaining a little bit of time there, as George Russell, all eyes on him, as his track surface slippery through turn 16. So someone's had a little bit of an off there through the last corner and has probably displaced some gravel out onto the racing surface. But Hamilton behind Kimi Antonelli there, just under a second, as Kimi is leading, as George Russell now does get ahead of Esteban Ocon and will have his sights set on the rear wing of Charles Leclerc. But it is Antonelli leading from Lewis Hamilton, and now Antonelli does the fastest lap of the race with a 36.6. Hamilton a 36.9 in P2. He's 6 tenths behind the young Italian. Charles Leclerc is in P3, 2.2 seconds back from his teammates. George Russell now back up into P4 after struggling with the levels of grip with these hard compound tyres. Colapinto now into 5th place, still yet to make a pit stop. Esteban Ocon in P6, still yet to make a pit stop as well. Ollie Behrman is in P7. He did get past Arvid Lindblad there, and he's now 1 place behind his teammates. Arvid Lindblad in P8, still yet to make a pit stop, as Gasly is in P9 with Verstappen now up into P10. So Verstappen now making some ground, as well as Hadjar, who is in P14, but not where he wanted to be with a spin at the start of this race. But Hamilton and Antonelli pulling out a gap to Charles Leclerc here. 2.3 seconds is the time, but they still need to be careful about their tyres. But it will be probably a 2-stop here today with the timing of that safety car, with them pitting as early as they did. We will see. But George Russell, what is his lap times? What are his sector times? A 25.6 compared to Charles Leclerc's 25.8. A 29.1 in the middle sector. So much better for George Russell this time around, 1.3 seconds, and he is catching Charles Leclerc a little by little. Lewis Hamilton trying to stay with Kimi Antonelli, a 25.6 in the first sector compared to Antonelli's 25, only a couple of hundreds separating them, but Antonelli a few hundreds quicker in the middle sector as well. So Hamilton doing well to stay with Antonelli right now, who has the clean air ahead of him. Charles Leclerc, though, being gained down upon by George Russell. 1 second, that back straight, that advantage the Mercedes have down the back straight is absolutely unreal. You can just see that interval time close and close and close and get shorter and shorter. But Leclerc does lead from George Russell in P3, but George Russell does the fastest last sector of the race, and subsequently the fastest fastest lap of the race with 36.4, but we have a yellow flag down the back straight. Who have we lost? Who is not appearing on our track map right now? There is probably a car that is stricken there. I wonder, or is it just debris? I'm waiting to see if anyone has pulled off to the side there. I'm not sure if this will be a safety car, but the drivers are making their way around the middle sector now as Antonelli is now pulled out over a 1 second gap to Lewis Hamilton. 1.3 seconds is the gap to Hamilton and Kimi Antonelli. And well, they have to play it smart as it's now clear in that sector. So there must have been some debris as Max Verstappen did get past Arvid Lindblad there nice and comfortably into turn 1 and have his sights set on Pierre Gasly ahead, who's not faring much better, not faring well on these hard compound tyres as he did at the start of this race on the mediums. But the gap to Hamilton and Antonelli and the Ferraris really in general, it's a tough one for them because do they go on the attack on the Mercedes? Because we just know how much more of an advantage the Mercedes has in overall pace. I guess you just have to try and keep the pressure on and just hope there is a mistake somewhere or maybe a mechanical issue, which we have seen so often at the start of this season. I mean, the McLarens were double non-starters for the start of this race. A big thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you can hit that like and subscribe button, much appreciated. We could get this channel to 80,000 subs today. Surely we could do it with over 11,000, 12,000 of you in the stream right now. Big thank you. But it is Kimi Antonelli leading from Lewis Hamilton in P2. 1 second is the gap between the two of them. A 37.0 for Antonelli last time out and a 37.1 for Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc did just put the afterburners on there a little bit and did a 36.599. George Russell did another fastest lap of the race there. As Hamilton is asking, I need more power, mate. Hamilton requesting more power. Power, give me the power. As George Russell did a fastest lap of the race there with a 36.313. They are catching this front pack as Lewis Hamilton losing a bit of time in that first sector because he doesn't want to lean, I imagine, on that tyre as much. Is Antonelli maybe using too much of that tyre in the first sector? As there is an incident involving Gasly and Verstappen moving under braking. Noted. Love to see that being investigated by the stewards. I want to see that. I want to see drivers penalised for moving under braking. And it pains me to say that if Gasly, who has been having a good race, as he gains the position back from Max Verstappen there, if he has moved under braking, he deserves a penalty for it because that is one of the most egregious things I think we can see in Formula 1. But look at that battle between Colapinto, Ocon, Behrman and Gasly and Verstappen right now. Fighting for the top 5. But Gasly... Gasly looking to chase down Ollie Behrman, but Ollie Behrman on the back of his teammate, and I wonder if there'll be team orders in play here if Ocon can't get ahead of Franco Colapinto as Behrman is on much fresher tyres. But the battle at the front, Antonelli leads 1 second ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That gap closing between Leclerc and Russell, though, as Russell is setting fastest lap after fastest lap, and he's under 1 second behind Charles Leclerc now. And, well, he will probably get him soon as Behrman does indeed get past Esteban Ocon down into turn 14, as Hulkenberg also gets ahead of Arvid Lindblad down into turn 14 as well. So we are seeing switches of position, but this is more so with the tyre allocations that they have and the tyre differences as Ocon regains a position back from Behrman, but then Behrman regains it back into turn 16. Oh, my goodness. Make your minds up, guys. You're on the same team, and you're looking to try and score a top 5 here today. Ocon is on 10 lap older tyres than that of his teammate, but we know Ocon likes to fight his teammates. He's made contact with every single one of his teammates, I think he's had in F1. So, Verstappen does get ahead of Pierre Gasly there down into turn 1 again, but will he be able to hold on to it? Because he lost that position earlier on in the lap. But we are seeing wheel-to-wheel racing in the last couple of corners here, which is great to see these cars nose to tail from Franco Colapinto. Of course, the front battle is interesting as well. Great to see the Ferrari split by the two, in between the two Mercedes, by the way. But George Russell not able to get past Charles Leclerc yet, as Charles Leclerc is chasing down those front two of Hamilton and Antonelli, who are doing slower lap times, as Hamilton did a 37.1. I wonder if George Russell is maybe taking too much out of his tyres, as he is comfortably the quickest driver out of the front three. But great racing to see between the pack there between Colapinto, Behrman, Ocon, Verstappen and Gasly. That is an incident involving Ocon and Behrman there, I think it was. So noted for them. Or is it Lindblad? Behrman and Lindblad. But I think that was quite some time ago that's being investigated for. But look at that battle there as Charles Leclerc has George Russell all in his rearview mirrors. But Behrman, is he going to be able to get Colapinto down into the braking zone of turn 14? We will see. He has a tyre advantage right now, but he's not able to get him as he's side by side with Colapinto. He just has to back out a little bit here as they make their way through the last corner. He's got to be patient. Has he gone for the move down the inside into turn 16? We've seen that be utilised. But no, Behrman stays patient and he drives past Colapinto, I think, down into turn 1. They're still side by side. No, Bearman has to hold back as that Mercedes power unit outperforming the Ferrari there, as Esteban Ocon and Max Verstappen now trade places. Ollie Bearman unable to get past Franco Colapinto there, as George Russell does the fastest first sector of the race, and he's under 3 tenths behind Charles Leclerc now, as Charles Leclerc has gained dramatically on Lewis Hamilton. He's now just over a second back, as Verstappen now does regain the position back from Esteban Ocon. And wow, we have proper racing here. I know you guys will say that there's battery deployment and so forth, but we are actually seeing proper car positioning here. Proper like cutbacks and proper wheel-to-wheel racing. So it's really, really good to see. Reviewed no further investigation for Bearman and Arvid Lindblad. Antonelli, the gap at the front, 1.3 seconds is the gap to Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton. There is only 3.4 seconds separating the top four cars at the moment, with Antonelli in first, Hamilton second, Leclerc third, and George Russell fourth. Colapinto leading that pack for the front. For the top 5 is 5th place, up 7 places. Still yet to make another pit stop, though. Ollie Bearman, all under the rear wing of Franco Colapinto. He couldn't get the move done last time around. He has a charging Max Verstappen behind him as well, who's on much fresher tyres than Colapinto. And Bearman needs to clear Colapinto quickly, as he is down into the braking zone of turn 14. Can he hold on to it? Will Max Verstappen try and take advantage here as well? And could Colapinto lose multiple positions here? But Colapinto isn't letting this up lightly. But he does have to now, as Bearman holds on to that position. Is now up into the top 5. And Colapinto, still yet to make a pit stop, is in P6 and now has Max Verstappen on much fresher tyres in his rearview mirror as well. Ocon is in P8. He's still yet to make a pit stop, with Gasly on fresher tyres in was in P9, but Nico Hulkenberg has just got ahead of Pierre Gasly down into turn 1, and they were going side by side. As still noted turn 6 incident, and now turn 6 incident, Gasly and Verstappen noted for moving under braking. Is that a second? Is that a second incident for Gasly being noted for moving under braking with Verstappen? I'm not entirely sure if that is. Don't know what Franco is planning to do on strategy here. It looks like they're probably going to go for the one stop. Those who started on the hard compound tyre will probably go for the one stop, as Colapinto does get overtaken by Max Verstappen there down into turn 6. Verstappen now has his eyes set on the top 5, and another recovery drive here today. But the top 4 at the moment, the gap is 3.4 seconds. George Russell unable to close the gap and get ahead of Charles Leclerc. And well, we still have, we suspect, another pit stop here in this race. Just watching the replay of who was that moving under braking. Oh my, who was that? Late moves. Franco Colapinto. Was it Franco Colapinto? No, it was Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly trying to go for a late move on Esteban Ocon and unsettle him. And all he did was leave himself vulnerable to Max Verstappen. So not happy at all, Pierre Gasly. As Gasly says, that wasn't fun. He ran me off the road. Sorry, Gasly. Don't think that was the case. Max Verstappen had plenty of room. You had plenty of room there on the outside. That was a fair move. You left plenty of room on the inside for Max Verstappen. These racing drivers, they'll complain about anything. They'll complain about anything. What happened to the Papaya boys? Don't know. There was an electrical issue with Lando Norris's car, which meant he didn't even get to do any reconnaissance laps, and he didn't even make his way out of the garage. We also saw Piastri did make his way round to the grid, but then he had to go into the garage, and supposedly it's been reported he has a separate issue on that car. So, Lewis Hamilton now losing a bit of ground to Kimi Antonelli and to his teammate behind. Is Lewis Hamilton starting to struggle on these tyres? Is he down on power right now? He claimed he needed more power. I really don't know with these cars, whether it's battery issues, whether it's tyre issues. We will see. But there are 34 laps remaining of this race. Kimi Antonelli leads from Lewis Hamilton in P2, Charles Leclerc P3, and George Russell in P4. Only 3.4 seconds separate the top 4 right now. We have Ollie Bearman in P5 being chased... being hunted down by Max Verstappen, but actually now Ollie Bearman has got some clean air. He is comfortably quicker than the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, as Max Verstappen is trying to pull away from Colapinto, as Max is in P6, Colapinto is in P7, still yet to make a pit stop, with Ocon in P8, still yet to make a pit stop as well. Pierre Gasly is in P9, Hulkenberg P10, Lawson is in P11, Lindblad P12, Isaac Hadjar is P13 with Sainz in 14th, Bottas 15th, Perez 16th, Alonso 17th. And we have 5 retirees from this race. Stroll did start this race but retired and brought out the safety car and pulled his car over to a stop at turn 1. We had Oscar Piastri, Norris not start this race, Bortoletto not start this race, and Alex Albon as well. But let's join back the battle at the front, because Charles Leclerc is very close to his teammate. But does he want to go for a move on his teammate right now? I don't suspect he wants to, and he wants to hold position. So we're in a stage of this race. We're nearly at the halfway mark of this race. I feel like so much has already happened, and it is still about the long game. But Antonelli in clean air does a 36.8. Lewis Hamilton does a 37.0. Charles Leclerc does a 36.8. And George Russell does a 36.5. So George Russell, clearly the fastest man out on track, but he can't get past Charles Leclerc. And I do wonder how much, when maybe the Mercedes will decide to pit. Remember, there's a 24-second pit stop loss time, so that is the gap that you're looking at, and George Russell does not have a comfortable gap to pit into right now if he was to try the undercut, because we can see there that he'd come out behind that of Liam Lawson, Arvid Lindblad, just behind that battle, really, of Isaac Hadjar in the midfield. Plus, also, I'm not quite sure how the undercut would really work for the Mercedes, because they really struggled to switch their hard compound tyres on when it came to that safety car restart. So is that a weakness of the Mercedes team that we've just seen here this week? As Lando Norris is being interviewed about the issues with his car, doesn't really know what to say. There is a very high chance of another VSC or safety car. Yeah, definitely. There is definitely. We've not even halfway through this race. We are 2 laps away from getting to the halfway point of this. No, we are at the halfway point. No, are we not? Oh, my maths. As Leclerc gets ahead of Lewis Hamilton down into turn 14. So Charles Leclerc gets ahead of Lewis down into turn 14. He goes for a move. Was that expected of Lewis Hamilton? And now Lewis will be susceptible to the overtake of George Russell down into turn 1 as well. How hard will he fight this? Or will Lewis Hamilton come back at Charles Leclerc? He does indeed. The two teammates fighting. What are they doing? Do they want to win this race or not? Because Charles Leclerc now regains the place back from Lewis Hamilton. They're still side by side as they make their way through turn 3, and it's a repeat of the sprint race as Charles Leclerc has taken it upon himself to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton and is now ahead of his teammates. What are they doing? Unbelievable Ferrari things. Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton swooped around the outside. He tried to hold on to the position, and, well, Charles, did he leave him room? He did indeed, and they actually touched wheels. They actually touched wheels round turn 3, but all this is done is just allow Kimi Antonelli. I do wonder what is going through Charles Leclerc's head right now, because all he's done is release Kimi Antonelli into P1. He's got 4-second gap now, 4.2-second gap now to that of Charles Leclerc. What is he doing? Unbelievable circumstances here. George Russell not able to capitalise on the two Ferrari drivers going side by side. But George Russell probably will be able to get Lewis Hamilton now. Unless Lewis Hamilton is able to get back on Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc has decided to take it upon himself. I'm not happy sitting behind my teammate. I want the clean air now as Lewis Hamilton comes in behind. I'm waiting to see if there is going to be a message on the radio from Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc on this. I'm yet to hear anything from the two Ferrari drivers, but Charles Leclerc, interesting. Let's see what happens here. But George Russell, 4 tenths behind Lewis Hamilton. He's gaining. He's 2 tenths behind. Is he going to be able to sweep around the outside? But Lewis is also gaining on Charles as well. But this is just releasing Kimi Antonelli, because, look, Kimi is now 4.7 seconds ahead. As Arvid Lindblad gets ahead of Arvid Lindblad and is now up into P12. Max Verstappen trying to close down the gap on Ollie Bearman, but he's losing ground on the Haas driver. Those two starting to pull away from the rest of the field behind them. But Bearman comfortable in that Haas and is looking to score a P5 here today, if all be good. But George Russell struggling or just biding his time to get past the two Ferraris. Charles Leclerc 4.8 seconds behind Kimi Antonelli right now, 4.7 seconds behind. Is he going to be able to pull a gap away from Lewis Hamilton? 37.893 was the last lap from Lewis Hamilton, and Leclerc did a 37.6. But we still have a long way to go in this race. No further investigation for moving under braking for Pierre Gasly on Max Verstappen. So still yet to see the actual incident of that to see if that is a correct decision or not, but no further investigation. As we have Antonelli leading as they make their way down the back straight. Charles Leclerc by 4.9 seconds, 5 seconds nearly, as Lewis Hamilton. Is he maybe going to come back at his teammate here? 4 tenths behind his teammate. 1 tenth behind. Is he going to go for a move on his teammate down into turn 14? I'm not sure. He looks like he's just held position for now as George Russell is 9 tenths behind. But no, Lewis Hamilton does gain the position from Charles Leclerc down into turn 14. But Charles will have the opportunity to come back at Lewis down into turn 1. But will he have enough? He will have the overtake available for him as they make their way down into turn 1. Is Charles Leclerc going to go for the position? He is indeed, as Charles Leclerc regains a position down into turn 1. But they're still side by side as they make their way through that first sector. And Lewis Hamilton just has to hold back on Charles Leclerc. No, he's going wheel to wheel with him, he says. These two Ferrari drivers want to give the win to Kimi Antonelli as they are fighting here for P2 and P3 with a Mercedes just waiting patiently. It's roles reversed here, where George Russell was in this battle yesterday. All George is doing right now is watching this unfold ahead of him and just biding his time. I'm really, really baffled as to what the Ferrari drivers are doing here as Lewis Hamilton is going side by side. He's under the rear wing of Charles Leclerc. You can see less than a tenth behind. This is great racing, but also stupidity at the same time as Lewis Hamilton dives down the inside of turn 9 on Charles Leclerc. They're side by side through turns 9 and 10, and Lewis Hamilton comes out second best. What are they doing? Great racing, but this is just unreal stupidity right now from the Ferrari drivers, because Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton are fighting for P2 and P3 as George Russell is all under their rear wing, and Kimi Antonelli now has a 6.7 second gap to the front two. This is unreal, and this is not going to be over and done with yet, because look, George Russell is George Russell's got ahead of Lewis Hamilton down into turn 14, and maybe Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton think this is maybe just a battle for the last podium position. Great racing between the two of them. Clean racing between the two of them. But I'm still baffled as to why they are doing this at this stage of the race. 29 laps remaining of this race. And now George Russell has got ahead of Lewis Hamilton, as Kimi Antonelli now has a 7-second lead over his teammate and Charles Leclerc. This is wild. Brilliant to see. Great racing, but wild from the Ferrari teammates when they still had an outside chance of winning this race today. But we know that these two, if they're given an opportunity, there's a yellow flag. There's a yellow flag at the last corner. Who has gone off there? Is there debris? Is someone going to come into the pit lane? No, the yellow flag has been removed. Someone probably ran wide there, or maybe that was Arvid Lindblad who ran wide. Yes, it is. Arvid Lindblad has ran wide because Carlos Sainz has gone past him. But is Arvid Lindblad going slow? No, Arvid Lindblad is speeding up. There's an issue with the telemetry there. But great racing. Ferrari is screwed now. Well, they've definitely cost themselves a heap of time. But Leclerc will have George Russell in his rearview mirrors, and Lewis Hamilton, well, now it's roles reversed. Lewis Hamilton will be looking at to maybe just pounce on George Russell overtaking Charles Leclerc. But if there's going to be an easier overtake, it's going to be George Russell on Charles Leclerc. That's for sure. Then it was then Charles Leclerc overtaking Lewis Hamilton. But really interesting racing and decision-making there from Charles Leclerc to even initiate that overtake from the get-go, which then set up as Arvid Lindblad spun. Arvid Lindblad spun, so he is okay, but that's what happened with Arvid Lindblad. He spun there. What happened there with Arvid Lindblad? I think he had a moment on the rears. Oh, big lock-up on the rears, and yeah, just lost control of the car. Lost it all by himself. But George Russell looking for a move on Charles Leclerc. There's no further investigation for Lawson and Lindblad forcing another car off the track. George Russell looking to get past Charles Leclerc. They're down into turn 14 and turn 16, but couldn't do it. All the while, Kimi Antonelli has a 7.3 second gap to George Russell now. With 28 laps remaining, still a long way to go in this race. Definitely, this race is in control of Kimi Antonelli, and being the not the youngest race winner ever, but he will have the opportunity to be a very young race winner, one of the youngest in F1 history, as Pierre Gasly gets ahead of Franco Colapinto now, and Esteban Ocon. A double overtake for Gasly on Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon clearly running out of battery there and just succumbs to the two Alpines. Esteban Ocon, as Charles Leclerc has really been under attack by George Russell. But Lewis Hamilton, how much that hurt has his tyres got? But Kimi Antonelli, while Charles Leclerc, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton are lapping in around the 37-second mark, Kimi Antonelli is just lapping in the mid-36s. He's putting out time over the three behind him, looking to secure his first race win in Formula 1. But as it stands, we will run through the grid here as they make their way right down the back straight. Kimi Antonelli leads by 7.3 seconds from Charles Leclerc and George Russell, with Lewis Hamilton in close proximity behind after that great battle between the two Ferrari teammates, as Charles Leclerc just does the fastest middle sector of the race. But George Russell, we know how quick that Mercedes is in a straight line. Here he goes. He's side by side with Charles Leclerc down into... As George Russell is complaining that they're fast in all the right places, but they're not fast enough there, George, because you've just got ahead of Charles Leclerc down into the braking zone of turn 14. But will he be able to hold on to it down into turn 1? As Charles Leclerc will be able to resend the favour with overtake mode, but no, he just doesn't have enough available, as George Russell is now back up into P2. A 36.158 for George Russell there, the fastest lap of the race, and Charles Leclerc did a 37.1 with Lewis Hamilton doing a 36.7. But Charles will not give this up easy. He'll want to come back at George Russell, and well, this will probably allow Lewis Hamilton to get back in the fight as well, and we could see that last podium position spot be fought out between the two Ferrari drivers as Kimi Antonelli leads 7.8 seconds to George Russell. Will George Russell be able to close down that gap on his teammate? That is definitely a big gap for him to gain upon. I don't think he has the pace advantage over his teammate there as Sainz gets ahead of Esteban Ocon as Ocon makes his first pit stop of the race. So we are nearly approaching, I presume, the second pit stop window maybe for these drivers as Antonelli responds to that overtake of George Russell on Charles Leclerc with a fastest first middle sector of the race there, and was 2 tenths quicker than his teammate in the first sector. So the gap is actually 8 seconds now to George Russell. Charles Leclerc nearly outside that 1 second range of overtake mode on George Russell. He will gain down this back straight, you presume, with the slipstream here. But will it be enough to stay with George Russell? And does he have the level of grip as well? Because he probably needs to be more careful about Lewis Hamilton as Ocon comes out ahead of Fernando Alonso there on the medium compound tyre. Former teammates there, no love lost between them. But unfortunately for Alonso, he does not have the car underneath him to fight Esteban Ocon. And of course, he is down in last place. Not where we want to see Fernando Alonso in an F1 race. But as we are on lap 31 of this Chinese Grand Prix, Kimi Antonelli leads by 7.8 seconds from George Russell in P2. Charles Leclerc in P3 ahead of his teammate by 7 tenths of a second. Charles Leclerc half a second behind George Russell as well. As Lewis does just lose a bit of time there in that first sector. Great battling between the two Ferrari drivers earlier on, around 5 laps ago, but still baffles me that they decided to do that, considering all they did was allow Antonelli to lead away in this race when they were sticking behind him. Ollie Behrman is up 5 places into P5, and he is comfortably managing that gap to Max Verstappen, who is 2.3 seconds behind in P6. Max struggled with the race start again and has actually had a good recovery, considering he lost time on the safety car pit stop as well by pitting 1 lap before the safety car came out with Lance Stroll's retirement. Pierre Gasly is in P7 with Franco Colapinto in P8, still yet to make a pit stop. Hulkenberg still yet to make a pit stop as well. He's in P9. Liam Lawson up 4 places in P10. Hadjar, who did spin at the start of this race and has made 2 pit stops today already, is in P11, 1 point away from the point scoring, 1 place away from the point scoring positions. We have Sainz in P12 up 5 places, Lindblad up 2 places in P13, Bottas in 14th, Ocon, who's just made a pit stop in P15 and has just done the fastest first sector of the race as Leclerc closes down the gap in the braking zone of George Russell into turn 14. Perez in P16, Alonso P17, dead last of the runners as we have lost Lance Stroll as Ocon does just get past there Valtteri Bottas through turn 7. Piastri was Stroll retired from this race earlier on, which brought out the safety car. Piastri and Norris, a double non-start for the McLaren team. Bortoleto also a non-starter, as well as Alex Albon. So we had 4 cars not starting this race, and we have yet to see 22 cars line up on the grid for a full race start. Deary me, but what a race this has been. I'm thoroughly enjoying this right now. We have 25 laps remaining here still. A very long way to go. Also, a predicted second stop still to be occurred here, still to happen, and we will see what that does to the order of proceedings. But Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton quite evidently fighting it out for the last podium position right now. They held up the Mercedes for a very long time, and I'm still really surprised that Charles Leclerc made that decision to overtake Hamilton when he did. No radio messages from Charles or Lewis that I heard on the radio. I'd be interested to hear the radio messages after the race to see if there was any team instructions. As we do have a driver who's just come into the pit lane there and has just shot off screen. It is Fernando Alonso. I did see a flash of an icon there. I think it was green, yes, and it was Fernando Alonso who is now into the pits. Hopefully this is him not retiring and he will be able to continue. If they fix the start issue for Verstappen, he can genuinely get a chance of podiums. I'm not so sure about chance of podiums because he's struggling to catch up to that Haas of Ollie Behrman, and he's lapping at the same pace as a Haas. So I wouldn't say he's got the opportunity of scoring a podium at the moment, but he should fare much better if he's not giving himself 10 places that he needs to make up throughout the race after a poor start. So George Russell now 7.9 seconds unable to close the gap on his teammate there. Both of them lapping 35.9s. George Russell just a couple of hundredths quicker there last time around, which is why he did the purple lap of the race. Leclerc and Hamilton now falling off the back of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. They are lapping 36.6s right now. Identical lap times between Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Of course, Lewis Hamilton still going for that first full race Grand Prix podium with Ferrari. Still yet for it to occur as Nico Hulkenberg gets ahead of Colapinto, who I think has come into the pit lane. So Colapinto now making his pit stop. Plan C could come into play, is what the strategy have just reported. So what is Plan C? We will see. So we are now into the stage of where the medium compound tyre can do the rest of the race. So we're in the pit stop window now. We are in the pit stop window. So do suspect that I do suspect that we'll see the Mercedes boys go onto the medium compound tyre, considering how difficult it was for them to light up that hard compound tyre earlier on. Track temperature is not quick, and we have a yellow flag. We have a yellow flag. What has happened here through turn 2 and turn 3? Driver icons are making their way through that first sector, but we have another yellow flag, a double yellow in sector 3, and it has just been cleared. What happened there? Was that debris? Was that Franco Colapinto going off there? As Franco Colapinto is now going very slowly, as Franco Colapinto had contact with Esteban Ocon there as he exited the pit lane. Maybe he did. Not entirely sure. Yet to see a replay. But Esteban Ocon's going slowly. Esteban Ocon's going slowly. Has he got a puncture? Is there an issue with Esteban Ocon here? Has he made contact? Oh, he's gone round. Yes. And he's lost his side pod there. Oh, not his side pod. His side winglet, whatever you call it, deflector. The deflector. He's had contact. I don't know. With Franco Colapinto, he's clapping. Esteban Ocon is clapping in his cockpit at Franco Colapinto. Not impressed whatsoever. And Esteban Ocon has damage to the side of that Haas, but he is going. I wonder where that winglet will fall. The deflector will fall off, but he was indeed clapping or smashing his helmet. I don't know what he was doing. It seemed like it was a sarcastic clap from Esteban Ocon from the cockpit for Franco Colapinto, as that is being investigated. Franco, watching the replay of it now. What happened there? That was quite an aggressive. So Franco Colapinto was leaving the pit lane, and Esteban Ocon went to do the cutback. Oh, that's Ocon. That's Ocon. That's Ocon. He went wide, and Esteban Ocon saw the grip, and Colapinto just did not see Esteban Ocon. And that's more an Ocon though. That's definitely more an Ocon. Damn, big moment there, and Ocon has just potentially ruined a good race result for him in that Haas, especially with Ollie Behrman up in P5, because that has been a good day for Haas, and Ocon was doing nice recovery, not a nice recovery, but he was looking to score points today. But let's have a run through the grid here. We have a bit of a field spread at the moment. We are in the second pit stop window right now. The gap to Antonelli and George Russell is 7.3 seconds, as George Russell is slightly quicker than his teammate at the moment, but he's only chipping away at about a 10th per lap as it stands. So still some margin for him to catch up to his teammate, who is in the ascendancy here. We have a retirement for Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso, double retirement for Fernando Alonso. Confirmation there of 2 Aston Martins out of this race. So if you had a bet on Fernando Alonso or the 2 Aston Martins finishing this race today, unfortunately, you will be out of money. Real shame there for the Aston Martin team. Maybe he'll come back out again. He'll be back out in 5 laps, exactly. He'll be back out in 5 laps. So, Antonelli leads from George Russell by 7.6 seconds. Charles Leclerc is now 10 seconds behind the lead. 10 seconds behind the lead and 3 seconds behind George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is 1 second behind his teammate. They are doing identical lap times at the moment, 36 seconds. Ollie Behrman is 3 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in that Haas, looking to secure a P5 here. Very, very good job from Ollie Behrman thus far. Max Verstappen up 2 places in P6. It's been a very, very topsy-turvy race for Max Verstappen. I think he's been towards the rear of the pack at the start of this race, missed out on the safety car pit stop advantage, and now finds himself back up in P6 as Lewis Hamilton has got ahead of Charles Leclerc there. Is that because Charles Leclerc is coming into the pit lane? We will see. But Lewis Hamilton just got ahead of Charles Leclerc, and he caught up massively there on Charles Leclerc. Has Charles Leclerc got an issue here? He's dropping back from Lewis Hamilton. We're taking an eye on that interval timer. Is he going to come back at Lewis? That caught me by surprise. Where has that battle come from? As Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc are going side by side again through turn 2. We've seen this multiple times already. As Lewis Hamilton says, at the moment, I need something usable. As Lewis says, I need something. I'm down on power I need something out of the last corner. I don't have anything. Please provide me something. And they say they are looking into it. There was an earlier request from Lewis Hamilton earlier on as well. But I don't know if Charles Leclerc... Yes, Charles Leclerc did make a mistake down into turn 14. So Charles Leclerc, little rare error from Charles Leclerc with Lewis Hamilton on his rear wing. And Lewis said, thank you very much, I'll take it, even though I need more power from my Ferrari power unit. So we have Nico Hülkenberg in the pit lane now. He's making his one and only pit stop. So that will promote Carlos Sainz into P10, by the way. Isaac Hadjar back up into P9. And back where he started as Franco Colapinto gets ahead of Nico Hülkenberg as well. Hopefully it's not a double retirement from from Nico Hülkenberg. But he's taking some time to come out of the pit lane here, isn't he, Nico Hülkenberg? Where are you, Nico? Please come back out. Don't make it a double Audi retirement here. Good man. He's back out, but that was definitely seemed to be a slow pit stop for Nico Hülkenberg as he drops to the back of the field. That was a very, very slow pit stop from Nico Hülkenberg there, but we are approaching, yes, we are 20 laps remaining here. There's a 10-second time penalty for Esteban Ocon for causing a collision with that of Franco Colapinto, so yes, that was understandable there. That was definitely, so watching the replay, is that a replay of, is that Charles Leclerc or is that Lewis Hamilton here on the overtake there into that braking zone of turn 14. No, it wasn't. So, yeah, make up a lot of time in that back straight. Good helmet cam there from Charles Leclerc in the slipstream of Lewis Hamilton down that back straight. But that gap is already nearly to a second of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. How much hurt has that caused Charles Leclerc's tyres as he went wide down into turn 14? But we're still yet to see a pit stop from Antonelli or George Russell or Hamilton and Leclerc. Well, we've seen a one and only pit stop. I don't presume they'll be able to take these hard compound tyres to the end of the race, but we will see. But what is understandable and what is clear is that the Mercedes car is the fastest out there. 36.0 for Antonelli last time around, 35.9, and Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc doing 37s, although they did go side by side last lap, so we'll keep an eye on that lap time this time around. It'll be a better comparison for sure, or maybe next lap, because they did even go side by side this lap into the first corner. So run through the grid here. It's Kimi Antonelli leading by 7.2 seconds from George Russell, with Lewis Hamilton in P3. Charles Leclerc is P4 with Ollie Behrman in P5. Max Verstappen is P6 with Gasly in P7. Lawson is in P8 with Hadjar in P9. Carlos Sainz is P10. Yes, Carlos Sainz in P10. Arvid Lindblad is in P11 with Colapinto in P12, Esteban Ocon 13th, Bottas 14th, Perez 15th, and Hülkenberg 16th. We have Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, Piastri, Norris, Bottas, and Albon all out of this race. Piastri, Norris, Bortoleto, and Albon didn't even start this race. So that is what we've got there. Is Max saving tyres for the end of the race? Potentially, yes, as George Russell does another fastest lap of the race of 35.5. That time around, he was 6 tenths quicker than his teammate. And, well, could they take these hard compound tyres to the end of the race? Maybe. It'd be interesting to see if they can. I guess the problem is, with the field spread right now, you don't want to get stuck behind another car. Even though it is obviously possible to overtake other cars, but you don't want to lose yourself any unnecessary amount of time. And I guess the real question is for Hamilton and Leclerc right now, if they pit, they'd come out behind Verstappen and Behrman, and they might not pit again. If Antonelli and Russell pit again, then they're potentially giving track position to the two Ferraris. So it's interesting state of affairs right now in relation to the strategy. Driver chat is not on the screen right now because there are issues with the AI transcriptions of the driver radios. So because of that, we do not have it on and we have the chat on screen. But thank you everyone for tuning in. By the way, if you are enjoying this stream, hit that like and subscribe button. Nearly at 77,000 subscribers. Much appreciated. We'll be here for Suzuka in a couple of weeks' time as well, and more F1 content in, well, what will be the 4-week break now, with Bahrain and Saudi being cancelled, confirmed yesterday. As Charles Leclerc is closing down the gap again on his teammate, as Antonelli responds to George Russell's fastest lap last time around with one of his own. But will George Russell take it away from his teammate? Nearly 0.003 of a second separating George Russell and Kimi Antonelli that last lap, as George Russell did a fastest last sector of the race. Lewis Hamilton, though, under pressure from Charles Leclerc, as we have Nico Hülkenberg sitting the fastest first sector of the race with a brand new medium compound tyre. We have 18 laps remaining here of the Chinese Grand Prix, as Hülkenberg does get past Sergio Perez. As the Cadillacs, while of course they are not While they haven't been racy, they are still running, unlike that of the Aston Martins and one of the Williams. As Carlos Sainz doing very well here. He's going to try and hold on to track position, but he does have Arvid Lindblad. Well, no, Arvid Lindblad's still yet to make a pit stop, by the way. Arvid Lindblad is on 37-lap-old hards. He's the only driver yet to make a pit stop, and is being chased down upon by Franco Colapinto at a rate of knots. Over a second per lap, Colapinto is quicker than Lindblad right now on brand new mediums compared to Lindblad's 37-lap hards. But Sainz, will he be able to hold on here with 18 laps remaining? Will he be able to hold off Franco Colapinto? He did a 38.5 last time around, Sainz. So I would suspect no, unfortunately. But you never know. You never know. Stranger things have happened, and what a point that would be for Williams, considering their struggles here this weekend. Leclerc unable still to get really close behind Lewis Hamilton. It does seem like he used a bit more out of that turn 13 corner, though. He can maybe catch up to Lewis here. Let's keep an eye on that pace differential. 330 as Lewis is already starting to clip there, and there's a big difference in speed here from Charles Leclerc, who's probably used his overtake. Big difference as they make their way down into the braking zone of turn 14, as Charles Leclerc does indeed get past Lewis Hamilton there down into turn 14. Wow, massive difference in the overtake mode being pushed, as there was almost a 30 km/hour difference there between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc down into turn 14. But will Lewis be able to come back at him? He's also, there we go, roles reversed. Lewis Hamilton has over 40 kilometres an hour in speed differential here as they make their way down into turn 2. And Lewis Hamilton does indeed gain a position back, but we've seen this before multiple times already this weekend. Who's going to come out on top here? Will it be Lewis? Will it be Charles? And Lewis regains the position back, but for how long? Because Charles Leclerc will now have the straight line mode activated. They're side by side, as you can see from the interval time there and on the track map as they make their way down into turn 6. We've seen overtakes here before as well. They're still side by side, and Leclerc just backs out for the moment, but it's not over and done with yet, as they're still looking to go side by side through turn 7 and turn 8, with maybe a move down into turn 6 as Charles just lifts off the throttle somewhat and lets Lewis hold on to position again. We have a battle here for the last podium position, and well, Lewis and Charles really want it. Charles going for a podium at a track that he doesn't see as one of his strongest, and Lewis going for his first podium in the race, in a full race for Ferrari. Great racing between the two of them, fair and respectful, and I'm still yet to hear anything on the radio from the two of them complaining about the racing, unlike yesterday. But Charles Leclerc won't have the battery advantage here like he did last time around. You can see equal in speed there as they make their way down into turn 4. But that overtake button is definitely, the mushroom button, yes, is definitely something to happen. To be honest, I don't care what F1 Gamer's doing. If you want to go to another watch-along, yeah, go ahead. If you're enjoying the stream here, please hit that like and subscribe button, by the way, guys. Much appreciated. We do our own thing here, and that's absolutely fine. So, next year, FIA introduces the banana peel drop. Yeah. Or the blue turtle. The blue turtle is next on the list. Ollie Behrman in P5, still holding that gap to Max Verstappen, by the way, 2.2 seconds ahead from Max Verstappen. That is, just do, I was going to say, last time around, he did do a fastest lap of his race, but he just lost that time in that lap there with a 37.2, and Ollie Behrman's 37.1. So Ollie doing a good job of holding off that gap. Pierre Gasly, 3.1 seconds back behind Max Verstappen. He's looking to score, obviously, good points here today. In the position where he started, be a bit disappointed at Gasly that he's not in P5, with the McLaren's not starting this race. So he will be looking to try and maybe nick those positions from Verstappen and Behrman. But the way this race is going, it does look like with the field spread that we're not going to see a 2-stop here today. But the 1-stop, the 1-stop is what people want to do and what they want to utilise. So Hamilton 1 second ahead of Charles Leclerc. He just gained a bit of time on Charles there in that turn 11 and turn 12 chicane. And, well, let's keep an eye on the speedo here of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, as Lewis Hamilton does definitely seem to have got a much better launch out of that last corner. But you can see here the overtake mode of Charles Leclerc. Look at that, 326 kilometres an hour. He's maintaining that advantage there, that battery usage out of turn 13. And compared to Lewis Hamilton with the added slipstream, has around a 20-kilometre advantage, even though he had a bit of a poor turn 11 and 12 compared to his teammate. Now, Ferrari's just fighting among themselves. They are in their own world now. They're in their own race. I still think Charles Leclerc made a mistake earlier on by attacking Hamilton when he did. I'd like to see what the driver interviews afterwards, but clearly he thought, I want track position now on my teammates. Maybe he thought that they weren't going to be able to catch Antonelli, but that decision by Charles Leclerc's radio from Charles Leclerc, as Leclerc says, that is actually quite a fun battle. Charles Leclerc, very happy on the radio with his battle with Lewis Hamilton right now, fighting for the last podium position here. And do you know what? It's been fun to watch, Charles, as well, because it has been fair and respectful between the two of you. Racing room has been left, unlike this ahead at the Apex rule that we all don't really like. So Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton fighting for this battle. But I'm still a bit dubious, and I still think that decision to attack Hamilton when he did was a poor decision, because I think there was maybe a potential. George Russell didn't look like he was going to be comfortably getting past the Ferrari. So we will see. Charles just wanted to entertain himself. Yes, he was getting bored, stuck behind Lewis Hamilton's rear wing, but he is still behind it now, 1.6 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton just maybe pulled out a gap there in that middle sector. He did indeed on Charles Leclerc, but he might have used a bit more battery here, so don't expect maybe that gap to... But he maintained at 1.5 seconds. Also, tyre life is going to be an issue here as well, come towards the end of the race with 14 laps remaining. Who has better tyres here? Lewis and Charles have got very racy within each other. Who has the better tyre life? Who has more front left tyre remaining? That will be the question. 1.4 seconds is the gap to Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who are third and fourth. That gap to Antonelli and Russell, 7.5 seconds. Have to say, Kimi Antonelli managing this race brilliantly from the front. If anyone was concerned about Antonelli managing this race today, well, he has done really, really well, as he is 7.5 seconds ahead of his teammate George Russell. 7.5 seconds ahead there. Lewis Hamilton, 13.3 seconds behind George Russell, and 1.2 seconds ahead of his teammate. Ollie Bearman, 20.3 seconds behind the two Ferraris, and 2 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who is gaining a little bit. He gained a bit of time in that last... He gained 4 tenths in that last lap, so maybe a little bit of a wobble there from Ollie Bearman. Pierre Gasly gaining on Max Verstappen. He is 3-4 tenths quicker a lap on Max Verstappen at the moment, and will be looking to try and get P6 and maybe chase down P5 of Ollie Bearman. So that's a battle to keep an eye out on for that top 5 position there, or that 5th place position. Liam Lawson on course to score some good points as well. He's in P8, and well, Isaac Hadjar is looking to score points as well, as Antonelli is complaining about traffic. Don't worry, buddy, you are okay, because once you get ahead of Ocon, you don't have anyone for quite some time, with Colapinto further up the road. But Lawson and Hadjar having a little bit of a battle there. Of course, former teammates last year. Hadjar did have a spin earlier on as Esteban Ocon is overtaking Arvid Lindblad. No, sorry, that's Lindblad coming into the pits finally. Lindblad into the pit lane there on 42 lap old hards. Not entirely sure what the strategy was there for Racing Bulls. Maybe holding out for a late safety car, but Arvid Lindblad will be racy at the end of this race with 13 laps remaining. But Racing Bulls taking the wrong strategy decision there for Arvid Lindblad, keeping him out for as long as he did, probably hoping for a safety car. But we have Franco Colapinto chasing down Carlos Sainz as Nico Hulkenberg is just overtaken Esteban Ocon, who does have damage and a 10-second time penalty for that collision with Franco Colapinto into turn 2 earlier, as Colapinto was exiting the pits. So let's have a rundown against a Lawson and that battle. Yes, Lawson and Hadjar. Lawson is up 6 places. He scored points yesterday in the sprint race, and he's looking to score points again here today. And he's definitely going to score at least 2 points, because even if he does get overtaken by Hadjar, Sainz is so far behind that Lawson will definitely score points here today. So good for him and the Racing Bull team. A good start to his season in 2026. His first full season, you do hope, for the New Zealander. But Hadjar had a spin earlier on in turn 13, and he had a spin earlier on in turn 13, and he ended up, unfortunately, ending up some way behind the pack. So the fact Hadjar has been able to claw his way back to the point scoring positions is a good drive from him, considering. But back to the battle between Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. That gap has now gone out to 2.2 seconds. And well, Lewis doing a green lap last time around. Doing a good lap last time around. Is this Lewis now just starting to stretch his legs a little bit with the better tyres that he has underneath him compared to Charles? Potentially. We will see. But there is, for 12 laps remaining of this Chinese Grand Prix, guys, if you have enjoyed this stream, please hit that like and subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. Great to see the viewing figures as always, and consistent viewing figures, and you guys returning week in, week out. So much appreciated. Trying to hit 100,000 for this. Trying to hit 100,000 subscribers for this season. So, bit of a field spread now, and I do think this field spread, and yes, you did say there that this field spread at the moment does look like a practice session, and I think that is what is kind of holding up right now. I think that is the reason why we aren't seeing a 2-stop. I think the reason we aren't seeing a 2-stop is because of this field spread, and because we are seeing the drivers where they would come out of the pits, they'd come out into traffic. Whereas if the field was a lot more bunched up, we would see As they reckon Pierre Gasly is going to catch Verstappen in 5 laps at the rate of knots Gasly is catching. He's under 2 seconds now to Max Verstappen, or he's around the 2-second mark, as he gained another 3 temps there on Max last time around, or 2.5 temps. Yeah, it's because if Hamilton and Leclerc pitted now, they would come out 24. Yeah, they'd come out behind Behrman and around the Max Verstappen mark. Matthew, thank you, buddy. You turn 35 next month, and so appreciate it. I have got to enjoy watching Lewis throughout his F1 career, even at 41. Lewis is electric. Great age, by the way. I'm 35 this year as well, Matthew. Great age. Great age. Thank you for the $5, by the way, buddy. Much appreciated. But yes, I think if we had maybe more, I don't know if we had maybe more cars on track. I mean, no, that wouldn't help with the issue. But yes, 24 on average, it's around a 24-second pit stop. Oh, what has happened to Max Verstappen? Max Verstappen is going slowly. Max is going slow. Could we have a late safety car here? What has happened to Max Verstappen? He's just been overtaken by his teammate, by Liam Lawson on the timing tower. The track map is slightly behind, it looks like. We've had issues with telemetry today, but not with the timing tower. And Gasly has got ahead and is up into P6. And what has happened with Max Verstappen? Has he got an issue with that engine? He's just crawling. He's just crawling at the moment, Max Verstappen. There's no smoke in the rear engine of that car. Oh, he's got to retire. He's just been told he's got to retire the car. Max Verstappen has been told he's got to retire the car. And the question is, will he be able to get this back to the pit lane? That'll be the question. But they've clearly seen an issue with the Red Bull, and they're going to have to retire the car. And Max's start to this season has gone from bad to worse. And dearie, dearie me, if he didn't hate these regulations already, he's going to hate them even more now. My goodness. But I think there won't be a safety car here. I think Max Verstappen will be able to get this car back to the pit lane, as we can see there. But he's at a crawl. It's almost like he's in limp mode. There's clearly an issue, but they've seen in the car, and that's why they've told him to just stop the car. Well, not stop the car out on track, but to bring the car back to the pit lane. It does show that he's making his way down the start-finish straight. He isn't. He is in the pit lane now. So that is a shame for Max Verstappen and the Red Bull fans. And dearie me, Isaac Hadjar, that's promoted him up into P8. That's promoted Colapinto up into P10. That's promoted Carlos Sainz up into P9. But Carlos Sainz is being chased down by Franco Colapinto. But Carlos Sainz here, I don't think, with 10 laps remaining, I don't think Nico Hulkenberg is going to catch Carlos Sainz. So Carlos Sainz will be overtaken, undoubtedly, probably by Franco Colapinto, who's on medium compound tyres, and Sainz is on 36-lap-old hards. But Sainz could be scoring, or should be scoring, a point here for Williams this weekend, with one of their cars not starting. So Max Verstappen, just watching the replay of what happened with him, and it just seemed that, I don't know, the engine just kind of cut out. Just watching the replay now, what happened with Max Verstappen? And Max, yeah, he's going down through the gears into turn 6, and yeah, he goes down into the gears into turn 6, and then the car just doesn't want to go anywhere. So there we go. Max Electrics maybe they're reporting. So Max Verstappen, we have had 4 non-starters and 3 retirees in this race. The 2 Aston Martins, the 2 McLarens did not start. Bortoletto in the Audi did not start. And Alex Albon in the Williams did not start. And Max Verstappen has now retired from this race, I believe. That's what he has just been told. That'll be confirmation coming through very shortly on the live timing tower. But Max Verstappen out of this race, as Kimi Antonelli has lapped Nico Hulkenberg and Franco Colapinto, nearly lapped half of the field here. He has an 8.7 second gap to George Russell. Kimi Antonelli bringing this home. His first pole position in a Grand Prix scenario. Of course, he got a pole position in the sprint race at Miami last year. And he is the youngest pole sitter in F1 history. And he is now going to end up as one of the youngest F1 winners in history. Not the youngest, but one of. And, well, that is confirmation that Max Verstappen is indeed retired. He is out of the car. Timing Tower will rectify that. Will show that any minute now. Esteban Ocon coming in maybe to retire the car. Also damage to that car. Needs to serve a 10-second time penalty as well for that collision, which caused damage to his car. So we could see only 14 cars finish this race. Confirmation yet of Esteban Ocon coming out of the pit lane, but I presume they are also retiring that car as he is in the pit lane. So Antonelli leads by 9 seconds to George Russell. He just flexing now, Antonelli, the young Italian, a 28.5, fastest middle sector out of anyone today. That gap to George Russell, 9.1 seconds. Lewis Hamilton, 15.8 seconds, 16 seconds behind George Russell, 25 seconds behind the Mercedes at the front. But I think that is exaggerated due to the great battling that we saw between him and Charles Leclerc, as they are now a 3-second gap, really. Look at that. The two Ferrari drivers, 36.204, identical lap times by Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc last lap. 36.204. That is consistency from those two drivers. Although Charles Leclerc is going for another green lap here, but it's still not on the pace of Lewis Hamilton, it seems, in that middle sector. But yeah, that gap maintaining now at around 3 seconds per lap. Maybe Charles Leclerc just dropping back to try and look after his tyres, or is at the stage of the race where he will take a P4 and he knows that his tyres are probably shot compared to his teammates due to that battling. Caddy reliability. Yep, the caddy reliability, They are up to P13 and P14. As Esteban Ocon does come back out, by the way. He served his 10-second time penalty, and Esteban Ocon is back out on to the racetrack. So he is now into 15th, but will be finishing, it looks like, 10 positions down from his teammate, unless he can catch Sergio Perez there at the back of this field. He has 13 seconds to catch Sergio Perez, who is on 35 lap old hards, and Ocon is on brand new, I presume, mediums, I think, or brand new, no, he's on brand new hards, I think. Yeah, Ollie Behrman doing a great job, by the way, up into P5. Pierre Gasly is catching him, though, 3.6 seconds. He's 2 tenths a lap quicker. So is Gasly maybe going to run out of time as Behrman is coming up to lap Sergio Perez? This could be important time here for Pierre Gasly and Ollie Behrman. But really, really good at the moment for Pierre Gasly and Ollie Behrman, scoring points here today, taking advantage of that double non-start DNS for the two McLarens who were going to be starting P5 and P6, who you suspect would occupy those positions in a normal race day this season. Liam Lawson is up 7 places into P7, but being not hounded by Isaac Hadjar, 2.5 seconds behind. It does seem like Liam Lawson has the pace on Isaac Hadjar, 38.0 last time around for Hadjar, and Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls, the junior team, is 37.4 seconds. However, Isaac Hadjar has had a bit of a torrid time today, and maybe he's also being told to manage that car due to the retirement, due to the issues that Max Verstappen has just seen, which has caused his retirement from this Chinese Grand Prix. The gap to Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, 3.1 seconds it was there. 3 seconds as Lewis does a 36.385. Charles Leclerc does a 36.331. So they're very, very consistent lap times and close lap times between Hamilton and Leclerc. We have 7 laps remaining here. Antonelli leads by 9.5 seconds from his teammate George Russell. I think what has been very interesting today, guys, very, very interesting today, is that there is evidently a weakness in the Mercedes. They do not fire up their hard compound tyres, at least in these cooler track conditions, as quick as the Ferraris do. That was very evident today. That made things exciting after the safety car restart. George Russell lost a lot of time. Once they did get up to speed, though, of course, it was kind of normal service resumed. However, that battle between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc did evidently allow George Russell to get past them both. He was struggling to get past them both, so I would have liked to have seen whether Ferrari could have scored a double podium today and held George Russell back. Of course, in clean air, the Mercedes are definitely quickest lapping in the 35s now compared to Hamilton and Leclerc, who are doing 36s, but they have used probably more of their tyre life here with the great battling that we've seen from them. However, it would have been interesting to see, nonetheless, whether they could have held George Russell back. I think they probably could have done, because George Russell was complaining on the radio that they are fastest exactly where it just where it matters. As Charles Leclerc, 3.2 seconds back, seems to be losing a bit of ground on his teammate, particularly in the middle sector. That's where Lewis just has a little bit of an edge over his teammate right now, but he could be scoring his first podium for Ferrari this season and in his Ferrari career. Of course, he won the sprint race last year, but that doesn't count. And he was on the podium for the sprint race yesterday, but that doesn't... No, yeah. He was, yeah, yesterday, but that doesn't count. So, let's see how it will be celebration-wise to see Lewis back up on the podium and for the first time in the red Scarlet overalls. But Pierre Gasly, closest out there on track right now. Esteban Ocon, by the way, catching Perez. He's on soft compound tyres, Esteban Ocon, sorry, not on hards. And he's catching Sergio Perez at 4 seconds per lap. That's obscene. It's an obscene pace right at the end there. But still Esteban Ocon, not as quick with damage to that Haas car, still not as quick as what Antonelli and Russell were able to do on the hard compound tyre. 40 lap old hard compound tyres, and Hamilton and Leclerc as well. FIA need to step in and allow the rest of the teams to close the power difference. I reckon there'll be tweaks. Yes, there'll be tweaks probably between now and Suzuka, or maybe not Suzuka, but definitely probably for Miami, where we will have that 4-week break now. Because of the cancellations of the Bahrain and Saudi Grand Prix, which, if you are unaware of, has had official confirmation last night. So yes, we will have a 4-week break after Suzuka. Suzuka is in 2 weeks' time, which we will be live for every single session, even at an ungodly hour here in the UK. The last one until I have to worry about waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning for F1 until Vegas at the end of the year. But yes, unfortunately, Bahrain and Saudi have been cancelled, and they will not be replaced on the calendar if you are unaware of that news, which is a shame, because Bahrain is a great race circuit. Saudi, less much so, but Bahrain always provides great racing for us, and it's a shame that we won't see these new cars go there, considering also they did the testing there. But yeah, not being replaced or moved later on in the calendar year, and we just hope, obviously, that situations sort themselves out, that we can go to Qatar and also Abu Dhabi by the end of the year, because they're also at risk as well. So Antonelli leads George Russell by 9 seconds, managing this race perfectly with 5 laps remaining. George Russell leads ahead of Lewis Hamilton in third place. So we've got Antonelli in first, Russell in second, Hamilton third. He's 17.4 seconds behind George Russell. And importantly for Lewis Hamilton fans, he is 3.7 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Done his fastest lap of the race, last lap of 36.1, and that was 6 tenths quicker than Charles Leclerc. Behrman is in P5, so the top 4 will be the top 4. They're miles ahead of the top 5. The rest of the field here, as Ollie Behrman is 26 seconds behind and is being closed down upon by Pierre Gasly, but Gasly is running out of laps. He only has 5 laps remaining, and he's only gaining around a tenth per lap, as Behrman is in P5 and looking to score another massive haul of points here. We will have a look at the championship standings after this race as well, guys. Do not fear, we'll not be dipping off once this race ends. We'll be discussing everything that has happened today, because there is quite a bit to discuss. Pierre Gasly in P6, he's up 1 place. A great start. Great race for him. He'd love to have that P5, though, considering he did start P7, but definitely found some performance in that Alpine here this weekend. Really disappointing not to score points in the sprint race yesterday after a great qualifying, but he's definitely converting that here today in the race. Liam Lawson up 7 places as well. Great drive from him in the Racing Bulls. Is going to finish ahead of Isaac Hadjar, who's 4 seconds behind him. A great strategy yesterday to start on the hard compound tyre in the sprint, and it's going to be a double points scoring weekend for that of Liam Lawson in the sprint and the race today. Isaac Hadjar in P8, good recovery from him, but it does come at the cost of Max Verstappen, who has retired from this race, who we'll get to. Carlos Sainz is up 8 places in P9, but for how long? Because Franco Colapinto is in the slipstream of Carlos Sainz. But Carlos Sainz did do a 37.981 last time around, and Franco Colapinto was only a couple of attempts quicker, but there are 4 laps remaining, and I think Franco Colapinto will probably be able to get ahead of that heavy Williams. But a great drive nonetheless for Sainz, who, even if he loses his position to Colapinto, will finish in the points. What a great point scoring position it'll be for him, and for Colapinto as well to finish in the points. Nico Hulkenberg in P11. He's going to finish probably a point place short. The only Audi driver out there with Bortoleto not starting this race. Audi unable to get 2 cars to the starting grid at the moment. They did start both yesterday in the sprint race, but for the full race, it seems there are definitely some issues there. As Antonelli has a yellow flag. Did Antonelli just go deep there into turn 14? There I was saying he's comfortably controlling this race at the front, and there was a brief yellow flag into turn 14, and I think Antonelli may have just locked up big time into turn 14 there and gone wide, as yes, because George Russell is now 7.6 seconds behind Antonelli, so he just lost 1.5 seconds there, Antonelli, to George Russell. But thankfully, he has only 3 laps remaining here of this Chinese Grand Prix, but don't do that, Kimi. Don't do that. Yes, he did go very wide. Oh my goodness, Kimi. You don't want to send your car there. You don't need to do anything stupid. I mean, those hard compound tyres aren't looking very nice at the moment. There's about 3 different shades of grey on those. Grey, black on those tyres right now. But yeah, big lock up there. Just waiting to see the replay here of Kimi Antonelli, as there are so many marbles, by the way, on either side of the racing line down the back straight, which is really interesting to see. Oh my goodness. That was a violent lock up. That was a violent lock-up by Kimi Antonelli. That could have been so different there for Kimi Antonelli. He could have gone into a massive spin. That was very violent and janky. So Kimi Antonelli there, fortunate, really. Is it the car? Is it the car? Bono comes onto the radio and just gives Kimi some kind of words of advice, just calming him, of course, after that lock-up. Good engineering there from Bono. But Franco Colapinto unable to get past, by the way, Sainz. He's just had to, as he's just told to, let's just get this thing home, as he's told to Kimi Antonelli, as that gap now has been pushed back out to 8 seconds, as George Russell is lapping Franco Colapinto. And, well, Colapinto is going to try and take advantage here and get on the rear wing of Carlos Sainz, as Carlos Sainz lets George Russell through, as Colapinto is all under the rear wing of Carlos Sainz here. Is he going to be able to utilise that advantage that he just gained by George Russell lapping Carlos Sainz? Here we go, down into the first corner, but Sainz will have the slipstream, not DRS, slipstream of George Russell ahead with that straight line mode activated, and, well, with no overtake mode available there for Franco Colapinto. He will have it available this lap, though. He was unable to take advantage of that, but Carlos Sainz doing very well. Mercedes power unit versus Mercedes power unit. One car that is at the minimum weight, if rumours are to be believed, and one car that is way over the minimum weight, which is Carlos Sainz. They're carrying a bit extra weight at the moment, and there's easy performance to be found there for Williams, you think, moving forward compared to the Alpine. But Sainz doing very well with 44 lap-old hards, by the way, compared to Franco Colapinto's 21 lap-old mediums. So, theoretically speaking, it should be Colapinto who should make quick work of Carlos Sainz here. That is the closest battle out on track. Pierre Gasly is quickly making time up, or chipping away at time. Ollie Behrman, who is in P5. Charles Leclerc does the fastest first sector of the race and is 3.6 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So we are on the penultimate lap of this race. We just saw a big lockup for Kimi Antonelli. Down into the very corner he's entering right now, and he does seem to be managing it now. 7.3 seconds into gap to George Russell. Just needs to be careful of not locking up, and it should be fine, as we are now approaching the last lap of the Chinese Grand Prix. It has been an interesting one. Mostly the entertainment has been provided by the Ferrari drivers. What a battle it has been between the two of them. If you have enjoyed the stream, of course, please hit that like and subscribe button. But we are on the final lap of this race. Kimi Antonelli, he is the youngest pole sitter of F1 history. He won't be the youngest race winner in F1 history, because that honour belongs to Max Verstappen, who unfortunately has retired from this race back in Barcelona, if you remember, when those two Mercedes collided at the opening lap of the race in dramatic fashion. Max Verstappen, in his first race for Red Bull, did that. But Kimi Antonelli, impressive nonetheless, in what is undoubtedly, I think many do presume, is a higher caliber driver of George Russell and favourite of the Drivers' World Championship. However, what he has done today, he has comfortably had George Russell in his back pocket today. Of course, George Russell may be thrown off with that qualifying performance yesterday. We don't know if there's any gremlin still in that Mercedes, but nonetheless, you can only race who is in front of you, and Kimi Antonelli is converting this very, very well. He only has one more sector to contend with, Sector 3, the strongest sector of Mercedes weekend, with that power unit in the back of the car. It is supreme right now. We will do a drive of the day poll once everyone crosses the line, so stay tuned for that. But Kimi Antonelli, he rounds the last corner. Lewis Hamilton is 3.5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, and is looking to contend with one more last sector. But Kimi Antonelli, the 19-year-old Italian, people thought he joined F1 too early. Well, 1 year later in his rookie season, he is a winner in F1 for the first time. Kimi Antonelli leads from pole, youngest F1 pole sitter in history, and he beats his teammate George Russell in P2. Lewis Hamilton only has one more corner to score his first podium in the red overalls. And, well, Lewis Hamilton, after a tremendous battle with Charles Leclerc, an entertaining, a fun battle, as Lewis Hamilton comes across the line and rounds off a 3-4 for Ferrari, scores his first podium, and we will see Lewis Hamilton on the podium steps for the first time for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc in P4, a great result for him as well, and for Ferrari. They're staying in this championship battle. Mercedes may be quickest right now, but all you could do is keep applying the pressure and pick up those points. And, well, it is still a very long season. It is still a 22 race weekend season with 5 more sprint weekends ahead of us. So anything can still happen. It's a long year of development. Ollie Behrman, great drive from him. Let's put the fireworks out for Kimi Antonelli. A great drive from Ollie Behrman in P5, up 5 places to score the top 5. Pierre Gasly, 6th place for him. Liam Lawson, he is about to cross the line. He has got one more corner to contend with as well. And Liam Lawson scores double points here this weekend in the sprint race and here in the main race. P7 for him. Great result and great drive up 7 places. Isaac Kadja up into P8. Of course, a good recovery from him after an error, a battle with Ollie Behrman, who finished P5. He spun into turn 13. We have Carlos Sainz scoring. Carlos Sainz held off Colapinto. What a drive from Carlos Sainz. Driver of the day, maybe. We will do a poll in 2 seconds. Colapinto, P10, double points for double points for Alpine. Hulkenberg finishes in P11. Lindblad in P12. Let down by the strategy today from Racing Bulls, that is for sure. Valtteri Bottas finishes, as does Cadillac as a whole, because Perez also finishes, but in P15. It's a step forward for Cadillac. Esteban Ocon got a 10-second time penalty for a collision with Franco Colapinto, and he ends up in P14. So the fact Franco Colapinto had that spin as well in that collision with Ocon is a good result for him to finish in P10 and nearly get ahead of Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen retired from this race. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll retired from this race as well. Piastri and Norris didn't even start the race in the McLarens. Bortoletto also a non-starter, as well as Alex Albon. And there we go. That is your Chinese Grand Prix. Well. Let's do your driver of the day. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, by the way. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't already, we'll be back, of course, for the Suzuka, for us at Suzuka. So let's start a poll. Driver of the day. Who is your driver of the day? Let's do it. So let's do Gimme. Hang on. If my keyboard wants to work. Having a wireless keyboard is all well and good, but it doesn't connect. Kimi, Hamilton. Hamilton, I think we go Behrman. And we go Sainz. Thank you, Pat. Much appreciated. Fizzled out a little bit at the end, didn't it? It fizzled out a little bit at the end, but I think that was an entertaining race. Thank you, Charles Leclerc, for making it entertaining with Lewis, but I still think it was a poor decision. I could put Lawson as well. Yeah, I could put Lawson. I think there's a few candidates today. I think there really is a few candidates. They all had kind of very different races. Ooh, nearly between Russell and Hamilton. Yeah, but you have to remember, Skittles, that Hamilton and Leclerc battled a lot in that race. And we've already seen at the start of this season that if you battle and you fight, especially at different circuits, the time that you lose can be massive. And that's why I was surprised of Charles Leclerc's decision to attack Lewis when he did, because I still don't think that a double podium was out the realms of possibility for Ferrari there. Of course, Charles probably thought that George was getting close, but George was on the radio, and unless it's... I mean, this is where really I think, while Ferrari are going to let their drivers fight, I think they need to just say, look, Mercedes, while they're the quickest in clean air quite comfortably, to have them fight that early on in the race, I think was a mistake. But anyway, I'm interested to hear what the comments are and the radio messages that we didn't get access to. So yeah, but thank you, Judy. Much appreciated, guys. Championship standings. Yes, let's show you the championship standings. Kimi Antonelli has closed the gap on his teammates. As there we go. But who would have thought Kimi Antonelli would win his first race of the season in the second race of the season, eh? Who would have thought that? Maybe helped a little bit by, yes, a mechanical issue for George Russell in qualifying yesterday. But look, you have to take those opportunities when they present themselves. So, we have George Russell leading by just 4 points from Kimi Antonelli now. We have Charles Leclerc in P3, 34 points, so he is, and Lewis Hamilton on 33 points. So only 1 point separating Charles and Lewis at the moment in P3 and 4. Ollie Behrman with McLaren having a non-starter here today. McLaren, I mean, Piastri scored 3 points, and that was solely in the sprint race yesterday. He hasn't even started a race yet, a full race, because of what happened in Australia and now here. We have Behrman ahead of Lando Norris by 2 points. Great result from Behrman. Gasly is up into P7, up 5 places for 8 points there. And then we have Verstappen in P8. Lawson in P9, Lindblad in P10. We have 2 of the Racing Bulls in the top 10 after 3 races. Yes, a sprint race I'm counting as a race. Hadjar is up 7 places there by scoring his first points in P11 because he retired from, of course. That's 2 retirements, actually, now I think about it. That's 2 Red Bull powertrain retirements in 2 successive races. We have Piastri in P12, of course. Sainz up into P13. Bortoletto down. Colapinto gains a single point. So Colapinto's already done better than last season because he'd scored 0 points last season. So a good result from him. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes understandably at the top. Ferrari second, McLaren third, but only just because Haas are fourth. Look at that, Haas. 10 points for Haas there this week. Well, not this weekend overall, and they're 1 point behind McLaren. Haas are ahead of Red Bull because they can't keep 2 cars. They can't get 2 cars to finish the race at the moment. Racing Bulls in P6, Alpine up into P7, Audi moved down, Williams are up into 9th, and then of course we have Cadillac and Aston Martin at the bottom with nil points. So there we go. Yeah. So driver of the day, your votes. It's very close between Kimi and Lewis Hamilton. Ollie Behrman 12th, Sainz 7th. I'm going to give it to... See, there's 2 ways that I could do this. And I get why it's close between Kimi and Hamilton. Kimi, I think, deserves it. And I think Lewis also deserves it. I think more so than maybe Behrman and Sainz. Obviously, because no disrespect to Behrman and Sainz, they gained 2 places from... But they gained 2 places from the non-starters of Piastri and Norris. And... They did get racy out there. Behrman did get racy. Sainz kind of just kept it out of trouble and did what he did. And yes, he held off Franco Colapinto, which was very good. They all had their racing moments. Lewis, of course, had to hold off Charles Leclerc. And still baffled by that decision for him to attack when he did Charles. And he came out on top. And his tyre management came out on top in the end, which is what we have been... not seen for a long time from Lewis, but I think I do have to give it to Antonelli. Kimi, youngest pole sitter, he's crying. Oh, bless him, he's crying tears of joy. In his interview, it's I think given the circumstances that everyone thought that he would just be playing second fiddle this year, and he managed that race very well from the front and. He did come under attack from Lewis as well, and he held off Lewis. And I think Kimi. I think he deserves it. So you watch. Ollie will be a dark horse. I really rate Ollie Behrman. I really do. Ollie Behrman will be a future Ferrari driver. He is the next Ferrari driver. Whoever decides to go first, Charles or Lewis, and you suspect it will be Lewis because of his age. Behrman is next in, 100%. Are Ferrari bringing a huge chassis upgrade to Japan? I have no idea, to be honest with you. There's lots of information that we need to review heading into Suzuka. So George cried with his first points. Kimi cries with his first win. Yeah. Who would have thought it though? 19 years old. Look, many thought he was too young. Was he brought into F1 too early last year? And I said no. I said if you want to bring a rookie through, last year is the year to do it because they can get up to speed with the whole circus that is Formula One. And of course, these cars are very different to last year, but it gets them over that kind of, oh, I'm racing against people that I've watched for my whole life and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, look at that. He's been able to convert the first opportunity he's got pole. He's converted it. And fair play to him. He also converted that pole and got a good start because while I say a good start, it's a good start for Mercedes anyway, because they lost the positions to both Ferraris because the Ferraris had the good. He lost the position momentarily to Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Lewis obviously was well ahead, but Charles Leclerc, he actually had to regain the position from Charles in the corner of turn 3, and it was very well done. So that's also impressive as well. So all the drivers on the podium are Mercedes race winners. Yeah, that's true. As Toto Wolff said yesterday, oh, it's our 3 drivers. We've got 3 drivers on the podium. Although, didn't exactly treat Lewis that well in the last couple of years, did he? And not give him a new contract and so forth. But yeah. Pretty sure 19 is literally a baby. 19-year-olds are babies, aren't they? Yeah, anyone who's in the chat who's 19 or younger, you're all babies. But thank you guys for tuning in, by the way. I've really enjoyed that. Did you enjoy that? I think what we saw at this race circuit in particular, now not every race circuit is going to provide racing like this, but I think what we saw at this race circuit in particular is that it has always provided good racing. The nature of that first corner, the nature of turn 2, turn 3, and we saw Charles and Lewis genuinely jostle for position, go side by side, on the adhesion of grip, on that limit, and it was like balls to the wall, really. That is what we want to see. Yes, of course, there is the advantage and the strategy of using the battery and so forth, but we are seeing with these cars, with the aerodynamics, with the lack of dirty air and how they are less aerodynamically sound as their predecessors, we are seeing these cars and these drivers have more of an opportunity. Yes, with the addition of the battery help, we are seeing these cars overtake in corners that we wouldn't have dreamed of seeing overtakes last year or in the ground effect era. So for that, I am happy. Of course, we'd still like to see these cars have less dependency on the battery and so forth, and have have like less of it being as an advantage. But still, it's been entertaining to watch thus far. Thank you, Cop. Much appreciated for tuning in. Look, it is what it is. I don't focus on any other watch-along streams. I focus on myself and I do what I do here. So I'm always here to try and improve the viewing experience. Of course, we did trial out the radio transcriptions. However, I wasn't confident in putting it on the screen because we trialed it over the weekend and I did see confirmation from the developer of this actual software say that they are unable right now the AI is unable to get the radio messages from the drivers because the way that it gets the messages is, I think, is through the onboard footage. And what it does is that the sound or the sound levels at the moment of the onboards, the noise of the car is overpowering the radio messages, so it can't transcribe them correctly for us. So until that is resolved, and we'll trial it out in practice sessions in Suzuka. I am happy to have that on in moving forward. We will then, until that's resolved, we will have the chat on screen like we have done since we've been starting these watch-alongs. So, Hamilton happy in third. Third places are happier than second places if they won. That is true. That is true. They say second place is first loser, right? And George Russell will feel that way. He won't want to let his teammate. He'll be happy for Kimi on one hand, but he'll also be like, I'm in a championship battle here. He's now only 4 points behind me rather than 8. No, rather than 4 points behind. So it's a 12. It's a 7-point difference. So it could have been 12 points. 11 points difference. So now it's only 4. So Max will never win a championship without the best car. That much is clear. I disagree, Irons. I disagree. I think Max definitely is a talent, and you have to respect his talents. Look, last year, he didn't have the best car. He had the best car at certain circuits, low downforce circuits, where the Red Bull was strong compared to the McLarens, who were better in the high-speed, downforce-dependent corners circuits. But Max, no one is going to be able to ever overcome the performance of the car, especially when it's that wide as what we're seeing right now. Yes, there will always be silly fans and hardcore fans who will say, oh, they can win it. They can win it in a Haas, they can win it in any car, whatever. You just don't know F1. You need to take that with a pinch of salt. But it's the same with any driver. You can't extract more time out of the car when it's down on power, when it's losing grip everywhere, and it just, like, one thing I will say about Max is that he is probably the most adaptable driver on that grid. The way that he can go to the different multiple racing series and he can handle a difficult car. But that car is, yeah, super, super difficult to drive this weekend. And they're also having power unit issues as well, evidently, because that's 2 races now in 2 full races anyway. We're not including the sprint race, but they've had a engine retirement, one for Hadjar and one for Verstappen. So I think, unfortunately, it's going to be a long season for... I mean, it's going to be a long first half of the season for Red Bull, I think. So, Bono on the podium with Kimi. Yeah, that's nice to see. I don't understand people blaming either Ferrari drivers for coming in P3 and P4. Mercedes pace is way faster. I disagree to an extent. At the stage of the race, where Leclerc decided to go on the attack on Lewis, George wasn't making any inroads on the Ferraris. He wasn't able to get past them. He was actually complaining on the radio that there is an issue. Well, not an issue, that they're fast in all the right areas. So I still don't think that was the right decision by Charles. Hang on, just listening to the cool-down room. I still think that was the wrong decision for Charles to do. I mean, it provided us an entertaining race in the end, but I at least would have been intrigued to have seen if they could have held George Russell back, because it didn't seem like, with two of them in front, and this has been the theory as well. This has been the theory of the Ferraris. Can they beat the Mercedes if they have two cars ahead of them, ahead of a Mercedes, kind of working together to an extent? And I think we saw today that at least with George Russell and the state of his car, I don't know if it was 100% up to working capability this weekend, of course, with the issues he had in qualifying yesterday. I don't know if there was any a hangover from that. But definitely, I think there was an opportunity there to at least see what they could have done with holding Russell back for this season. You think George would have come through regardless? I don't know. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching them two battle it out. It was great to see. Fair and respectful. Charles said he had lots of fun as well. But I will still question that. So, if Mercedes is good at straights and Ferrari does well on corners, Monaco 1-2. I think Monaco is definitely a track, but yes, I think they will be a lot closer and have a potential of winning for sure. On the McLaren as well, also, I think McLaren are very good in the corners if they can make it to the starting grid. That is, because they don't seem to be able to do that at the moment. Because they were also good in the corners this weekend. So Monaco will be strong for McLaren. Other circuits which are short and twisty, Hungaroring maybe, but then obviously you need the power down the back straight, down the start-finish straight. So yeah, there are some circuits that I think they are susceptible to Mercedes, and it'll be difficult for them to overtake, but we'll see. They won't do Stuffeyy. These guys are two number one caliber drivers with massive egos. No, I agree, but at the same time, Lewis and Charles, do they want to be fighting for the last podium position, or do they want to fight for the championship and race wins? So, because all they did by doing that was allow Kimi to just build up a gap and allow George Russell to then capitalise on their battle. So we'll hear it from the driver interviews, of course, and see what they said. They'll go into more detail. Lewis won't give. I don't think he gave much detail on the podium, but yeah, in the post-race interviews, we'll probably get more. So, Lewis on the podium and ready. So good to see. Yeah. George Russell's so tall that even though he's standing on the second step, he's nearly the same height as Kimi on the top step. Triple for Anthony today. Win, pole, and fastest lap. Yeah. Charles ruined the Ferrari strategy for his own ego. Really surprised he wasn't told to back off. I don't know what the strategy of Ferrari was, to be honest with you, at that stage of the race. I think, yeah, I mean, clearly the one stop was the one to go to in the end. Second one-stop race in a row. Doesn't look like we're getting two stops anytime soon, does it? So, do you think that Ferrari can ace the Monaco and Hungaroring, and who do I think will win the World Drivers' Championship? I think if you're a betting man, you put it on George Russell right now, but he's odds-on favourites. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say. You don't know what the rest of the season has in store for us in relation to the development and whether teams can get ahead. I mean, it may be a case of a similar scenario as like Braun-ish, where they had such an advantage at the start of the season and then they get caught up around the halfway mark, but they've already won so many races at the start of the season, scored so many points that even though they then start to not win races, they had enough of an advantage to secure the World Drivers' title. So, why is Lawson behind Verstappen when they have the same points? Alphabetically and better finish in the race would usually put Lawson ahead. Ditto with Racing Bulls behind Red Bulls. Good question. I think it's because Lawson scored his points in a sprint race. Or I think it's maybe because Verstappen scored his points first. I think it's maybe because Verstappen scored his points in Australia. So he scored the points earlier than Lawson, who scored them only this weekend, which we'll show you here. That Ferrari handles really well at the moment, but yeah, Ferrari does handle really well. They just need the power. They need the extra power out of their power unit, and I'll tell you what, they'll be difficult to beat, dare I say, versus the Mercedes, because I feel like the Mercedes advantage at the moment is really only on the straights, in the power and the battery usage. Their cornering is not as good as the Ferrari. The Ferrari definitely has a great chassis and a great aero package right now. They have good starts. And also, I mean, I said it earlier on in the stream, we saw a weakness today from the Mercedes. When that safety car restart got underway, they were really struggling for grip. George lost a good host of positions. Antonelli was under pressure by Lewis Hamilton. So it was only because Lewis had to really clear two cars, Ocon and who is it? Ocon and Gasly, I think it was. Was it Ocon and Gasly? I can't remember who it was who was in P2 at the time. Who didn't pit? Was it Lindblad or was it Ocon and Lindblad? No, Colapinto and Ocon. Only because he had to clear those two. I think that allowed the breathing space for Kimi to get those tyres up to 10. Otherwise, Lewis would have got the lead. Now, would he have held on to it? Of course, another question entirely. Probably not. But still, George really had to work hard to get his way back up to behind Charles, and he couldn't get past Charles. He even said it himself on the radio. He goes, these guys are fast where it matters. So she's doing very well, thank you, Anne. We're doing very well. Ferrari built a great car, and then the PU is the issue, annoying to say the least. It's not even necessarily an issue, is it, though, Aaron? It's just not. They just haven't used a sneaky little trick that Mercedes have clearly done, but the rest of the field haven't. So I wouldn't say they've made a bad power unit. So George versus Kimi for now, but Ferrari not far off. Exactly. And look, all Ferrari can do right now is just maximise their results. And mostly that is just finishing in third and fourth. Because the Red Bulls don't look like they're going to be able to do that, and neither do McLaren. And if they can do that, and then they turn it around and catch up in development to the Mercedes pair, and maybe, yes, Russell and Antonelli do trade positions, and one driver doesn't necessarily drive away with it, like Max Verstappen did when he was in the Red Bull, then there is always a hope that then Ferrari, if they start winning races, then it gets close towards the end of the season. So could you get a little summary, Anne? Of course you can. So, what happened in this race? Well, Ferrari had a brilliant start once again. Lewis Hamilton got up into P1 at the start of this race. The Ferrari drivers were both alongside the Mercedes pair, and both Ferrari drivers briefly got ahead of Antonelli and George Russell. They were 1-2, but then Charles Leclerc had a little bit of a moment in turn 3, not quite on the racing line, with Kimi Antonelli on his inside, and he had to cede the position to Antonelli, so it was Hamilton first, it was Antonelli second, Leclerc third, and Russell fourth. Russell then eventually got back past both of the Ferrari pair, and then we had a safety car. And because of the double stack with the safety car of Lance Stroll retiring out on track, that meant that George Russell lost quite a bit of time to those ahead of him. So he came out behind Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. And then there was a good battle between them. Some drivers didn't pit, so Hamilton had to get past Colapinto and who was it? Also Arvid Lindblad. No, Colapinto and Esteban Ocon. Caught up to the back of Antonelli, but the Mercedes really struggled to heat up those hard compound tyres. George Russell actually lost a position or two and had to regain them and get onto the back of the two Ferraris. Hamilton, by the time he caught up to Antonelli had already had his hard compound tyres up to temperature, and he was then able to just kind of hold and maintain a gap to Lewis. And then, well, this is the interesting part, is that Lewis was maintaining a gap of around 1.2, 1.3 seconds to Kimi Antonelli. And then Charles decided to go on the attack of his teammate, and that allowed Kimi Antonelli to just drive away, really, into the distance. George Russell was struggling to get past the two Ferraris. He couldn't get past them at all, was complaining that they're fast in where it matters, in all the areas it matters. And then George capitalised on that battle with Leclerc getting ahead of Hamilton and got past Hamilton, then subsequently past Leclerc, and then Hamilton and Leclerc duked it out for numerous laps. Fair and respectful racing for that last podium position. That's why they finished 25 seconds off the lead. Bit exaggerated there in the pace difference because of them fighting and because them not having the same age of really tyres or same level of tyres available at the end of the race. And Hamilton, with maybe a bit more of a tyre advantage than Charles at the end, finished in the podium position. So great response. The Verstappen retired from this race while running in P6 after a very slow start to the race. We had the two McLarens not start this race, which is why Ollie Behrman gained to 2 positions there, but also got Punchy and Racy out on circuits, and another great haul of points for him in P5. Gasly had a great race as well. Will be disappointed that he couldn't finish in P5, but a good weekend for Gasly overall. It's a shame he couldn't score points in the sprint race yesterday. Lawson, great weekend for him as well. Double points for him in the race yesterday, sprint race, scoring a point and 7 points. No, scored 2 points yesterday. He's finished 7th in the sprint race and 7th in this race. Hadjar had a spin at the start of the race in at turn 13, had to make 2 pit stops due to that starting on the softs, killed those tyres and was able to fight his way back up to P8, helped by, his teammate there and the retirements that we saw. So the point difference in the constructors is ridiculous. Yeah, if Leclerc didn't attack Hamilton, could Leclerc and Hamilton finish P2, 3? Ooh, I think there would have been a chance. Yeah, and that's why I would like to have seen that. But yeah, Charles definitely attacked Lewis. I think Charles definitely attacked Lewis at least at the wrong time of the race. To be honest, I think he should have done it earlier. Earlier. No, I think he should have done later in the race. At least like you've got a Mercedes. I know obviously you want to finish like you want to finish ahead of your teammate, but at the same time, you've got a Mercedes. You've arguably got your championship rival behind you. Like, George is the one that you think you're probably going to have to beat in a championship, right? And if you want any opportunity to beat him, you need to keep him behind. And Charles was keeping George behind, as was Lewis comfortably as well. And then he went on the attack and basically went, George, go on, go through. I just found it a bit bizarre. And it wasn't like Lewis was struggling either at that stage of the race. So, we'll see. We'll see. I'd like to know the reasonings behind it. What if Hamilton didn't fight back against Leclerc and defended against George? I mean, probably would have held George behind as well. But the thing is, as soon as you start forcing your teammate out of position and onto the dirty line and things like that, then you're just killing your tyres more so. Where George could just sit there, and George did just sit there for a few laps and watch them duke it out, look after his tyres, and then when the time came, he breezed past them both. So, because they've already used more life in their tyres. And we saw that in the sprint race yesterday. So, I mean, Lewis will be happy, obviously, that he got the podium there. He maybe could think he got a P2. I don't know. And it could have been a double Ferrari podium. But Charles said he enjoyed the race, but I'm not sure. I think they kind of maybe ruined their race somewhat. So, thanks to Teach. Much appreciated, buddy. Mercedes still would have won despite Ferrari fighting. I think they still would have won, Jazz. Yes, I agree. But a P2 and P3, a double podium, I think... Look, we will never know. But all I'm saying is that everyone stayed on the one stop, right? George didn't have an advantage at that stage of the race over the Ferraris. I don't think he was just biding his time. Because he would wanted to clear the Ferraris as quick as he possibly could so that he could catch his teammate. So, yeah. But thank you, guys. Much appreciated. Alan. Good man, good man. Yeah, see you at the next free practice. We'll be doing some content in between, of course. I have my driver ratings to do that I will be doing later on this evening. They'll be up later on this evening. I've got to go out. It's Mother's Day today for in the UK, so happy Mother's Day to everyone in the UK. So I will be going out for a nice, lovely meal with the family. Japan is also going to be an early one. I know. Oh, it's one more early one. So... Max is mentally weak for his poor starts. I disagree, Adrian. It's a car issue at the moment that is causing his poor starts. Jarvis, thank you for the 10 gifted, by the way. Much appreciated. Thank you. Hello. Good morning. You can't get over here yet, no. I'll see you in a second. I'm still chatting. It's the Ford engine, yeah, and the battery. So, yeah, Max is definitely having issues with that. I mean, that's 2 for 2 this weekend where that battery just didn't kick in, or not kick in, but there was an issue with the start procedure for Red Bull. So, Lewis beat his own record, 203 podiums. There we go. Not really keen on one-stop races. No, I'm not either. I think what we saw today, though, I don't know. I think, obviously, track position is key. And maybe George, maybe we just didn't see enough of a delta today with the medium and the hard compounds. Maybe, and also I think the field spread was something that, as I mentioned throughout the race, I think that was also something that was taken into consideration for the 2-stop. I think the top four were like, if we pit now, we're going to come out in that battle. Like, yeah, we can overtake, but we're going to lose any advantage. We're going to use the best of our tyre in overtaking cars that aren't even in our race. So I think there was just... It's a 23, 24-second pit stop loss time here as well. It's not particularly quick. So it would have been like, okay, well, would we have made up the time difference on the medium at the end of the race? Which, bearing in mind, the teams also didn't have a brand new set of mediums to use. They used their brand new set at the start of the race, and maybe that also played a factor as well. They did have a second set of hards to use, but Mercedes undoubtedly were never going to pit again, I think, because with how difficult it was to use those hard compound tyres and light them up. So, I mean, look, the Mercedes, once they got into clean air, definitely were quickest than the Ferraris, but it proves that I think it's not as plain sailing. If you've got two cars ahead of you, like the Ferraris, like there's not, and especially who are very good in the corners here, it's not plain sailing to overtake. Because George may lose quite a bit of time, even with the dirty air as well. He still has to look after his tyres. Probably was losing time in that middle sector. Probably having to use a bit of battery in that middle sector to try and stay with the Ferraris. And then just didn't have enough in the last sector, where they're strongest, to get past them. So, yeah, it's all about that strategy of when you can use your battery and when you're not, and the strengths and weaknesses of your car. So, if that Ferrari had just more power, it'd be so competitive. It would be. It would be great, wouldn't it? Max doesn't get a pass. No, I disagree, Adrian. I disagree. I mean, look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but the issues with that car right now are not Max's fault. So, I mean, him retiring is not his fault. It was a mechanical issue, and him having those poor race starts is also not due to his fault either. And I will give criticism where I see it's due, but if it's a car issue, it's a car issue. And multiple drivers are having poor starts at the moment, primarily due to power unit issues. So yeah, it is difficult to, you need to, I am going to hold back obviously on my driver ratings until I've listened to the driver interviews as well, because you get an insight into the gremlins that they've had to contend with over the weekend. But something like Ocon today is easy to kind of rate, because that was a poor decision making by Ocon there, and that's one that is purely on the driver. So the Mercedes has monster acceleration. They can put less load on the tyres. I wouldn't say they have monster acceleration. The Ferrari has better acceleration because of the smaller turbo. But they have better efficiency with their battery, for sure. They are able to just use they lose less speed, put it that way. Like, they recover more. So I think, if I get this right, the compression ratio trick basically means that they've got more horsepower. So it means that there's less dependency on the battery. So they're able to, but they're also able to recover more battery as well. So they're better with their recovery, but they're able to use less battery overall in, say, like the tight twisty sections and the other areas around the track, because they have more horsepower. And then when it comes obviously to the back straight, they're able to obviously use that battery. They have more battery available when it matters. And then also, when the clipping occurs, they've got more horsepower, which means they're losing less speed. So it's like a multitude of reasons, but it does primarily come down to the horsepower. But yeah, they're just as good with their recovery as well, which people are saying they need to get on top of. It's 3 in the morning, Taco. Thank you for keeping up, buddy. W for you, Taco, for being a great mod as always, man. Get some good rest and enjoy your Sunday. These teams had a huge lead to prepare cars for this regulation set. To show up with unreliability is not acceptable. Well, I think for Ford and Honda, it's a bit different. It's not the same Honda that is turning up. McLaren's a weird one. McLaren is a very big weird one. I'm surprised they're having as many issues as they are with their car. It does sound like it's all software electrical related. Not aerodynamic related. So yeah, they're clearly having issues trying to correlate that Mercedes power unit. But you still have confidence that they can get on top of it. So yeah, but issues just because the other Red Bull drivers didn't have poor starts doesn't mean that Max didn't have issues. Lawson was the only Red Bull driver in Australia to have such a poor start. But just because one car has a bad start doesn't mean that the others also, or vice versa. I haven't heard what Piastri's issue was. No, let me have a quick check. Oh, Alonso. Oh, no. There's an image of Alonso here having to let go of the steering wheel on the straight because of the vibrations. He's literally doing that. Oh, that's not nice. Fernando Alonso waved to Sergio Perez down the straight as well. Look at this. Look, he's like, hi, bye, nice seeing you, GP2 engine. There you go. Right, let's see what the Piastri potential issue was. Oh, so interesting information. Fred Vasseur has said we were planning to introduce a good package for Bahrain, so it will be postponed for Miami. We'll try to see if we can introduce parts that were supposed to arrive later. We might be able to do a package and a half for Miami. So big package incoming for Ferrari. What happened? What happened with the McLarens? So, nothing. I can't find anything on Piastri. Does anyone know? Adrian Newey is a perfect example of overthinking. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a combination of the two. I think it's... So, by the sounds of it with Aston Martin, they did not go and see their engine partner until November of last year. I don't know why it took him that long to go and see the new engine partner. Adrian Newey also joined late and has asked for too much of Honda in too short of a time. Honda also aren't the same team of personnel that made the Red Bull engine the success that it was. So a whole host of factors of Aston Martin just not doing their due diligence and not starting the production and the whole what's the right word? Just the whole process sooner, and knowing what the expectations and evaluating what Honda could and couldn't do. And if they did that, then maybe we wouldn't be in this position right now, and Adrian Newey would have dialed it back a little bit, you know? So, of like what he asked for them to do. Red Bull choosing Ford to do the electrical side was always going to be a disaster early on. Yeah, bizarre that, isn't it? Why out of all things to ask Ford to do, would you get them to do the electrical side? Bit bizarre. Wonder who are these people to say Max is washed? Hamilton is washed, Newey is washed. They have done so much for sports and are goats in respective field. Who are these fans haters? Just reactionary. That's all it is. Look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. You just have to take it with a pinch of salt. That's all you have to do. So I always come back with logic, and you can disagree with that logic as much as you like. But look, it'd be a boring place if we all had. It'd be a boring place if we all had the same opinion. But yeah, no, Lewis isn't washed. Max isn't washed. Adrian Newey isn't washed, but these are human beings who can make mistakes, and I will criticise them when they make mistakes. However, with Max at the moment, I don't think he is at fault for those race starts, and I don't think he's at fault for the issues that he's having to with that car that he's having to drive right now. It looks snappy, and it looks terrible to drive every single time he goes for a corner. So, and that's the same for Hadjar as well, who's having to contend with it. And look, they're one apiece now with Red Bull powertrains going pop. Hadjar didn't finish Australia, and Max hasn't finished China. So clearly lots of gremlins in that Red Bull garage right now. I think Newey asked too much of Honda as well. Yeah, it does seem like that, yeah. Before the race, Lando was in the garage, Piastri was in the grid, but before starting the race... Yeah, I don't know, Hirosha. I don't know. I'm trying to find out what did happen with Piastri. He did do an interview. I know it was a definite electrical issue for Lando, but I don't know what it was for Oscar. Apparently it was reported it was different to what Lando had, but I don't know. No one's really given us the report on it. I'm sure we'll get it after the race. So, oh, do you know that's Lando Norris's first ever non-start in Formula One? That's quite mad. He's been in F1 for what, 7 years, and he's never had a non-start. That's wild, isn't it? I've trolled Max for fun after the stick Lewis got, but I'm smart enough to know talent. Exactly, yeah. Any Max fan, right? If you're a Max fan and you're taking the jests and people criticizing Max now, and going back at him and saying cry more to you and saying it's just a car merchant, blah blah blah. Just suck it up, Buttercup. Like, look, if you dish it out, you got to be able to take it. All right. Simple as. It's just banter, either way. So if you are one of those people who's getting a bit touchy about people who are fans or not fans of Verstappen giving it back to you, then just take it on the chin, because you did just the same when, like, other drivers, when Max was dominating. So they're still good drivers. But yeah, take it on the chin, guys. Aston never visited the Honda factory. They expected, but never checked up. I think they didn't visit the Honda factory until November of last year. So, like, you're talking, like, literally 2 months before they're revealing the car, or a month before they're revealing the car. Yeah, but that's just not good enough, is it? So it's an oversight by them. So, what about permitting more limited private testing? They have spoken about that, but apparently, logistically, it's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to work, apparently. There were talks about maybe having some limited testing between the Suzuka, the race at Suzuka in Japan, and then the race in Miami. But I don't think it's going to happen. So, but yeah, it's too soon to write anybody off, Johnny. Yeah, I agree. I really do. But that was it was an interesting race. I enjoyed that. Did you enjoy that race? Did you enjoy that? I really did. 7 cars DNF'd on the second race of the season. I know. I mean, there's clearly, obviously, a lot of gremlins. I think that 4-week period is definitely going to be needed for the teams, and just to, figure out reliability. But we are still getting the cars that can make it to track are still providing us the good racing. So that's all I care about. When will my prediction video for Japan drop? I'll do my predictions the week. I always do my preview and predictions the week of the race. So it won't be next week. It'll be the week after. Around Tuesday, Wednesday time when I can get round to doing it. So, yeah. Irons, I wanted to ask if this year the world champion could lose his seat and be a repeat of the Nigel Mansell situation. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Yeah, definitely. I think I still think Max has that stature and that reputation to go and knock on anyone's door, whether it be Ferrari, whether it be Mercedes. Obviously, there were rumors. Obviously, we said, maybe Aston Martin with Honda. Clearly not going to be them. But whichever team it is, I think Max has that reputation and that stature to go and knock on any team's door and go, let's have a chat. I want a contract. And I think they'll take him seriously, and they'll probably take him. So, obviously, it depends how much money they've got available. But yeah, I think it'll be a worry for a few drivers at the end of the year with Red Bull. If Red Bull haven't sorted out their act, I think Max definitely will be looking maybe elsewhere. So, would it be this year? I don't know. When does his contract run out? Is it 2027? I think it's 2027. So, is that clause still in his contract? I don't think it is. No, I think it was. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a rolling clause in his contract. If it's a rolling clause in his contract, then yes, he could leave for free of charge. But if it isn't, then yeah, he'd be a lot of money. What's he on? 70 mil a year? 65 mil a year? It's a lot of money, isn't it? If you've got to pay him even a year out of his contract, then pay him for that year as well. So you're talking 140 million. If it's 2 years, you have to buy out of his contract. That's 140 million. Plus the extra 70 on top. So that's 210 million. Just in wages. So, because I can't imagine he's going to go to another team for cheaper, you know. He'll go probably at the same price or with a slight little increase in wage. So, only the McLaren boys can feel safe. Yeah. He is in an option year. Is it an option year? Okay. But yeah, no, 2026, it's going to be interesting. But there's still potentially going to be some changes made by the FIA between now and Suzuka. So they did say they were going to be analysing the data and the feedback from the teams after China, and then they were going to look at maybe making some changes. I still think some changes do need to be made in relation to the super clip-in and the battery and so forth, like the power distribution. So there are things that they can do there. They can make the car slightly slower, reduce the effectiveness of the battery, so that there's less clipping, there's more dependency on the power unit itself. But we'll see. We'll see what they're going to do. Buy your own private island figures. Exactly. And that's what I said before. I don't think we'll see Max leave F1 anytime soon, because that is still a lot of money to give up, right? Like, he's 28 years old. 70 mil a year. He's got a private jet at the end of the day. He's got to run a private jet. So you still need that's a lot of money to give up. And no matter how rich you are. So Verstappen possibly could replace Lewis at Ferrari in 2028. Maybe. I don't know. I think if Lewis continues up this form, then I think Lewis will be there till... I think they would probably extend Lewis for another year. I'm not on Missed Apex Day today, Adrian, no. It's Mother's Day today. I did get asked. I think I'm on Japan's review. I did get asked, but I've got Mother's Day, so we're going out for a meal with the family. Otherwise, I would be doing it, but yeah. Family first. Has Max ever talked about doing the Triple Crown? Yes, he says he's not interested. Le Mans, yes. IndyCar, in Indy 500, he went, no. I think he said he values his life, is what he said. Charles, congratulations to Sir Lewis Hamilton. Charles is always trying to prove he's better than Lewis by always asking the team for preferential treatment. Today it didn't work for him. I didn't hear any radio messages that he asked preferential treatment, in fairness to him. But he definitely went... hang on. Jacques Villeneuve. I don't agree with everything that he says. Jacques Villeneuve, in fairness to him, is saying what I said. He goes, like, Charles battling Lewis cost him their race. Cost Ferrari their race. So he's of the same mindset. Well, I don't always agree with him. He's of the same mindset that they could have had an even better race today. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's great. I'm watching the images now, and it's great to watch, and it was great wheel-to-wheel racing, but I mean, I still think there was an opportunity to keep George behind them there. George was behind them for multiple laps, so... Am I concerned with the amount of DNF so far? I know it's the early in the season, it must be a concern. No, I'm not, Glenn. No, I've been watching F1 long enough to know that DNFs should always be a thing, mechanical issues. With the brand new complex regulations like this, I'm not concerned at all, to be honest with you. Yes, we don't want championships decided by DNFs, but they've always been a factor. And the teams just need to do better. Some of these teams, and the thing is as well, these teams, I don't have any sympathy for them. Because they've had ample time to get these cars in shape. Williams, no sympathy for them. Aston Martin, no sympathy. The only team I maybe have sympathy for is Cadillac, because they're a brand new team. McLaren should be good enough of a team to have two of their cars start the damn race at least. So, no. And there's new partnerships as well. There's always going to be gremlins being worked out there and how they work. So, oh, hang on. Listen to Charles' interview now. Charles said he really enjoyed the race. Charles is spinning it as in like, oh, well, this is just the gap to Mercedes, so that's why we fault. He's saying we didn't change anything to our result by us fighting and optimising our race time. I disagree, Charles. I disagree. Yeah, very diplomatic in his interview there. So, agreed. You show up with a race car or you stay in the shop. Exactly, yeah. So, I don't have any sympathy for them. The only team I have sympathy for is Cadillac because they're brand new to the grid and they're starting from absolute scratch. But, like, Audi, okay, they're brand new, but they've had ample time to get this car working and together. They should at least be able to have two cars starting. Like, Honda, Aston Martin, the amount of resource they've got, no sympathy at all. Williams, I mean, we were promised for like 3 years, all eyes on 26, and Albon doesn't even start the race. You're not even making it out of Q1. Very fortunate to score a point today, as great as it is. Very fortunate, 2 points today. Very fortunate to score 2 points. So, yeah. If the FIA wants ridiculous racing with so many rules, why not have 3 drivers per team and have 7 teams only? Max can race alongside his Mercedes. Maybe. But yeah, the wheel-to-wheel racing between Charles and Lewis is what we want to see. And this is why I don't want to see ahead at the Apex rule. Because that right there is how racing should be. How exciting is that? They left room because they're teammates, for one. But they're also 2 drivers who, for the most part, do leave room. I think Charles, while I do have issues with the way that he moves under braking, he didn't move under braking here with Lewis. I think from every instance I've seen from Charles racing, he does leave sufficient racing room. So he is fair in that respect. And we saw Lewis and Charles, yeah, great wheel-to-wheel racing, and the nature of this first sector as well. Like, it was great. It was great to watch. But just, yeah, I still think there was an opportunity of a P2 and P3 there, or at least to push Mercedes more. But hey-ho. Cadillac gets a gold star, and they finished today. So well done, Cadillac. W Cadillac. But what are my thoughts on the disparity from Mercedes and their customer teams? So I think I don't have an issue with it. I think what it is that Mercedes have given the bare minimum information to Mercedes and Williams and Alpine that they're allowed to do contractually and by the regulations, because they're now competitors. And I think McLaren, and I said this yesterday, I think McLaren maybe overestimated or maybe ignorant a bit to the prior relationship they had with Mercedes in the ground effect era, where Mercedes were never a competition really with McLaren. They were always behind them, and Mercedes were probably quite forthcoming with any queries and questions that they had of the power unit. But that all gets reset now. That all gets reset with a brand new regulation. Okay, we're now back to square one, and we are now your competitor. And we want to get off to this regulations set off to a good start. So we're going to give you the bare amount of information. We're going to provide you the engine, but it's for you to figure it out for yourself based upon this level amount of information that contractually we are obligated to give you. There you go, crack on. And they've not been able to figure it out, and I think they've just they've taken it a little bit to heart. But they're not giving us the information that we wanted. I mean, James Vowles ultimately said, "Oh no, that we've got the information that it's for us to figure out." James Vowles is a former Mercedes employee, but he said James Vowles is very much like, "No, like we've got the information that we always get kind of given to an extent." So yeah, that's the problem of being a customer team, exactly. So, and Merck don't want to be beaten by McLaren again, exactly, Gadget, exactly. But if there is a team that can figure it out, I do expect McLaren will be able to. And at the moment, it does seem to be software related. I think it's definitely software related, maybe not necessarily power unit specific related in how the engine operates. And I think what will happen, I mean, you never know, I'm thinking, but I'm saying what could happen is that we turn up to Suzuka in 2 weeks' time and they've figured it out. And all of a sudden, McLaren are challenging Ferrari and Mercedes at the front. Or Miami, because there's a long break. I imagine that'll be at the forefront of their investigations right now in their development, is figuring out how to get the pace out of this power unit and the software to work together. They're clearly having a lot of battery issues with the machine learning side of things. So yeah, there's lots of improvement to be made by McLaren, and it just depends how, and I expect them to get on top of it, but I don't know how long it will take them to get on top of it. But I do think they will do this season. So the break due to the cancelled races may benefit all, to be honest. I agree. Yeah, because they'll be doing lots of runs on the dyno. They'll be doing lots of simulations and stuff. And yeah, I think it will definitely help a lot of the teams out. And it could bring that pack up to be closer together. But equally, Mercedes aren't going to stop developing either. They're going to get better. So also did give you a heart attack, Carusha, with the battle between Ferrari, yeah. So Andrea Stella comments now. Hang on, just hearing what exactly is going to be the issue with McLaren. Hang on. It's cost, Dewena. Thank you, Ellis. Much appreciated. He's just saying technical problems. He's not giving us specifics. Come on, Ted. Oh, it's a very corporate response. This is very disappointing for our technical and corporate partners. Come on. They're just saying technical problems. He's not giving specifics. Oh, hang on. Electrical side of the power unit on Lando's card. So he has specified that now. Ah, no. So, two different problems for McLaren on Lando's side of the garage and Piastri's side of the garage. However, both are electrical issues with the power unit, but two separate issues, so two different areas of the power unit, but both electrical related to the power unit. I mean, damn. That's why. So that was on the grid as well, because Oscar made his way to the grid. Deary me. So both cars are a big blow for the spectacle of F1. Something may need to be done. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll figure it out. I think they will. They definitely will, won't they? If you have faith in anyone, it's going to be, I mean, McLaren to do it and figure out. They've got the resource to do it as well. They might proper 80s reliability so far this season, yeah. I'm surprised we had Audi not start in Bortoletto. He made his way round to the grid as well. It's just like a repeat of Hulkenberg in Australia. And then we had Albon not start either. I thought he was going to be starting from the pit lane because they're going to make changes to the car. But it's exactly like Carlos Sainz's, because Carlos Sainz has made a bit of ground this week with some changes to the car, but they didn't put on Albon's, and he didn't start either. So not much, but we have to rely on good old Twitter for more information. Yeah, no, I haven't. I mean, there's some reputable sources out there. Adam Cooper, Chris Medlands. Oh, that's a cool photo. George moved out of the way and asked the three of Bono, Kimi, and Lewis to take a photo together on the podium. Oh, that's nice. Look. Show that briefly. Cute. Thank you, Maria. Much appreciated. Always try and do that. So, I'm enjoying the races a lot more than qualifying. And look, we're having battles for the race lead. And I know people will still complain about the artificialness of it all. But look, there is genuine strategy behind it. There was genuine car positioning and driver skill there earlier. And that's what we want to see. And these cars are providing on the racing front at the moment. Because we saw overtakes. We saw them go side by side through turn 6. We saw them go side by side through 7, 8, overtaking to 9 and stuff. So, like... And we saw, I think, track position is still definitely king. So if the Mercedes, like, it wasn't easy for them to overtake the Ferraris today. At least when they got into the hard compound tyre in the second stage of the race. So the early part of the race, yes, they were able to get back past. But, yeah, it's interesting. Who do I support? I'm only a fan of one driver, and that's Lewis Hamilton. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of any team. Obviously, I've got the Haas merch on. I think it's nice merch. And I've got some Red Bull merch as well and some Ferrari, Mercedes merch. But, yeah, Lewis is the only driver I kind of actively support. I keep an eye on how he's getting on the grid. But, as I said before, he's not above criticism. If he does poorly and he does something stupid, I will call him out for it, as I've done for many drivers. But I'll equally praise drivers where it's due as well. I support Ferrari, but won't admit it unless they're winning. No. Do I think Russell would be leading the championship if Lewis was still a Mercedes driver? I think it'd be a close battle. Because I think, don't underestimate the caliber of driver that George is. I think people are just saying, oh, it's because he's in a quick car. No, George has been doing good things in Mercedes for some time. In the ground effect era. I mean, last year, I think he was definitely top 3 drivers last year. And if Lando didn't win the championship and have that turnaround in the second half of the season, I think he would have been my number 2 driver of last year. So yeah, no, definitely he's earned the opportunity to be in the position he is in now. So why don't we see Genius Team Principal or pulled out hat like Brawn GP in terms of engineering a new car with rules? Because there's just I think the rules are a lot more too stringent now in that regard, and obviously the amount of resources available now as well with like the cost cap and so forth. I don't think we'll ever see a Brawn again, to be honest with you. Basur seems to think that they qualify for ADUO, which is interesting. I have heard they are working on a B-spec engine. So Lewis having his mojo back is great to see in F1. I always follow the driver, Mansell, Button, Montoya. Yeah, Button at Williams on it. Yeah, it's different, isn't it, F1? Some people were... And there's no right or wrong thing. Some people have just support a driver, and some people will just purely support a team. And there's no right or wrong, and they'll support the driver no matter what because they're driving for their team, and then they'll support the new driver that comes in to replace whoever that is in the team. So, or people follow the driver to other teams. So, yeah, it's a unique sport in that sense, really. George should be very happy with the 2025 results. Yeah, and I think, look, I don't know, actually, I haven't heard any driver interviews yet, but I think, other than like Charles's one there, but I think George... I don't know how many gremlins he maybe had hanging from or as a hangover from the previous day. Maybe he did. But I don't know. It's I think we saw today that it proves that the Mercedes isn't truly faultless. I think there is a couple of weaknesses in there. So, and they can be... I'm going to say it one more time. It's the last time I'm going to say it. I do think Ferrari had an opportunity to at least test out today whether they could keep George Russell behind them for the whole of the race. And Charles Leclerc put spoil to that by attacking Lewis when he did at like the midway point of the race. In hindsight, yes, in the end, it provided us a great race between the two of them and great racing. But I was intrigued to see whether they could have done and held on to those podium positions, because George didn't seem like he was making any inroads on the Ferrari's pace and looked like he was going to overtake them. It was only going to be due to a mistake from either one of the drivers, a driver error that would let Russell to have an opportunity. So, yeah, West Ham is your team. Yep, Irons. Good result last night, by the way, mate. Good result. Very, very positive with that. We're out of the drop zone. Let's hope we stay out of the drop zone and Forest get beaten by Fulham today, and of course Tottenham as well. We don't want Tottenham beating Liverpool. We want to keep the pressure on. And I noticed Leeds are getting brought back into it as well. They're on 31 points. I thought they were well safe. So, how come Nightbot is allowed to spam the same messages without getting warnings? Because he is in control. Do I believe in Val's direction for Williams? I do. The thing is that who else would you put in charge? That is the question. But I think what we'll get from James Vowles as well is that you'll get an honest answer from him about what's gone wrong. So obviously they're trying to turn things around. But I think out of all the team principals, you're most likely to get an honest answer of like, okay, so why did it go wrong? Why what you foresaw to happen in 2026, why did it not start off the way that you wanted it to? Where did it go wrong? And I think he's also someone who's quite meticulous, as he clearly seems to be, or comes across, that he will analyse the processes of the team and see where maybe things slipped through the cracks and wasn't as efficient as they possibly could be, and why they went in the wrong direction, and end up and make those changes for the better moving forward. So, do I think Hamilton has it in it to win another title? I do, Ellis. Yeah, I do, and I say that the same about Fernando Alonso as well. I think there are anomalies in sports who are just able to go on a lot longer and keep up a standard of performance for a very long time in their career, when normally the average driver, sportsman, footballer, golfer, whatever would have already tailed off and retired. And I think Alonso and Hamilton are definitely two of those drivers. I mean, you look at them, they're super fit. They're able to comfortably drive those ground effect cars last year, which were the most strenuous on the human body. And they clearly still have the grit between their teeth and want to win races. And It is a shame to see Alonso down there, because I do think if he had the car underneath him and he was in that Ferrari right now or that Mercedes, he would be on the podium and he'd be challenging for race wins as well. And that is because they are not the norm. Not every driver on this grid right now will be able to do what Lewis and Alonso are doing into their 40s. They just won't be able to keep up that level of physical performance, and they won't be able to keep up they just don't obviously have the same talent that those two drivers have, and they also don't have they won't have the drive as what Hamilton and Alonso have. But they still want to be fighting for race wins and titles at the ages that they are. And yeah, I think Hamilton, as he's showing at the start of this season, if he's got a car underneath him that he's confident in, he'll challenge for race wins, he'll challenge for podiums, he'll challenge for a championship. So yeah, but they are not the norm. Alonso and Hamilton are not the norm. You're not going to see, like, look at Kimi Räikkönen, right? Kimi Räikkönen, yeah, he did it into his 41. He wasn't at the same level as Hamilton and Alonso. Like, he couldn't challenge for race wins and a title if he was given the car. But those two, they can. So, Perez and Bottas. Hey, Perez ain't that old. He's only a year older than me. Take that back. You take that back. But yeah, no, I think he definitely can. He definitely can. And we saw in the ground effect era as well that the few times, and it was only, you could probably count on one hand in the 4 years that in the ground effect era where Lewis had a car underneath him which he was comfortable in and confident, and every time he either won a race or he finished on the podium. Some drivers are able to drive around and deal with more difficult cars. Lewis, I think, is someone who, yes, he can adapt, but he's always been someone who is more confidence driven. And I think it was Mark Priestley. Mark Priestley said, and he did an interview in Australia, and he said, and they were talking about Lewis, and he's a former McLaren engineer, and he was there when Lewis was there with Fernando Alonso, and he said, we as a team had more difficulty in keeping Lewis's state of mind in a good place than we did him, like, coaching him on the car, because and his abilities or his lack of talent. Because when he was in a relationship with Nicole Scherzinger, there were some moments where obviously it wasn't going well in his personal life, and they said that is when you saw a real drop off in his performance out on track. So we really had to try and do our best to try and rally round him and keep him positive, because a confident Lewis Hamilton and a happy Lewis Hamilton is a fast Lewis Hamilton. An unhappy Lewis Hamilton is like off track, or a sad Lewis Hamilton is a slow Lewis Hamilton. So what I'm saying is, Kim Kardashian, don't you dare break up with Lewis Hamilton this year, because whatever you're doing, it's working. Okay? I hope this isn't a fling. I hope this is for the long term. At least until Lewis decides to retire, okay? Stay with him, Kim K. Stay with him. And on that note, I'm going to end the stream. On that note, that is the Chinese Grand Prix watch-along. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I really enjoyed that. I hope you did too. Yes, Ferrari, maybe they could have done more. Maybe they could have finished both of them on the podium, but they're staying in it. They're at least making Mercedes think, aren't they? They're at least putting the pressure on. That's all they can keep doing. And maybe there will be a mechanical gremlin, as we saw from George Russell yesterday, but he got away with in qualifying. Maybe there will be a driver error from Antonelli and Russell. Maybe those two. Antonelli won his first race in his F1 career. We expected he'd win a race this year. Didn't expect him to win it so soon. And, well, that puts the pressure back on Russell and Antonelli. If those teammates fight and Ferrari slowly catch Mercedes and keep the pressure on, then, yeah, anything can happen, and there could be a way through for Ferrari in what is still a very long season. But, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that, guys. I hope you did too. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. We, I think, are at over 77,000 subscribers, so big thank you. On our way to 100k. I'm going to do my driver ratings later on this evening. It will either be posted tomorrow or later this evening, so turn your notifications on so you can tune into that. And let me know how wrong I am on my ratings, of course. Long weekends, so I'm going to listen to some driver interviews as well and see who had issues with what. because it's difficult to rate drivers when they miss the full race. But we'll still take a viewpoint on it, of course, because I think everyone pretty much got to do the sprint race yesterday, didn't they, and participate in qualifying. So there's still ways that we can rate them. And we'll keep an eye out on the news as well in the week, because I'm sure there'll be some information that comes out on maybe potential tweaks to the regulations, to how these power units are operating between now and Suzuka. But if not, we will see you for a very early Friday morning practice session, FP1, in Suzuka in Japan in a few weeks' time. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday. Have a great Mother's Day if you're in the UK. And we'll see you then. Bye.